Memories. Memories.
Feel my heart, it's beating. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. Feel my heart, it's beating. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call. Let's free fall. I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call. Let's free fall. 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 I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call. Let's free fall. Feel my heart, it's beating. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. Feel my heart, it's beating. Oh, my body's breathing. It's just you and me. I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call. Let's free fall. I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call. Let's free fall. 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 I'm so caught in this, we're so lost deep in it, can't stop. I'm forever the one you call. Let's free fall.
Our insight here, you get an insight and you know something, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true. And
Welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss. Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven.
no one to necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through from Peyton. It's just going to solidify everything for Mythos.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill Thor anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're going to be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes the Nanoblade immediately into back. Fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
Do something.
It's commonly known that Moths are always going after lamps, but today the team of the Moths are going after the victory in the open tier of EU. But alas, the Ender Dragon cometh, because Dragon's Vanguard stands in their way in this first round playoffs match. My name is Gio, I am joined by Spectrum today in this wonderful cast. How are we feeling about this CGL playoff match?
Well, firstly, this is the first game of the CGL Season 15 playoffs, and I'm incredibly close to derailing this cast already because we're talking about the bloody Minecraft movie. You know? Great to be here, though. Of course, great to get this next month or so of matches underway. Of course, we're starting with an 8-team bracket here in the EU Open playoffs, and we will be whistling down to just one. Of course, we are seeing Ellen and Eclipse have FF after, I believe, their roster exploded. So 907 are going to be waiting in the wings, if I'm not much mistaken. Well,
Yes,
and still, or just been beaten already in the first day of matches being played.
Very possible. I mean, 0907, they're a strong team. They're a top Face-It team as well, and they're a team that have just gone strength to strength. So no matter which team wins today, they're going to have a tough battle against 0907. But look at this beautiful, big, expansive playoffs bracket. All of these teams have fought for weeks to be able to be in this bracket and to fight towards the grand finals, where there is a big money bags to be playing for, and of course to etch your name in the history books of CGL and CGL 15. But it all comes down to these games. It all comes down to these nights where we're playing these opponents and what we're capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, the game I most want to see is that kind of W6 game, that FC v Falcons of Pool matchup, because there's some very strong players in the lobby there. Nevix versus Golden Pants is one of the sentences of all time. Two of the most amusing players, definitely two casts. But that will be for another day, because right now we've got Moths, who are going to be playing up against Dragon's Vanguard. As we've mentioned, the first map of the day appears to be a Lijiang Tower. And remember, after this playoffs having started, we're no longer on a set map pool, right? A team can pick any map they want as long as it's in the Season 15 map pool, and it will be allowed. So no more us forcing parity, or no more us forcing Nepal. Realistically, no one's going to play. So we kind of are in Lijiang Kings Row jail for the foreseeable future. I hope everybody's locked in for that.
You know, apart from the fact that teams are going to probably be a little lazy, I love it. It means you've got full freedom. There's a little bit more to it than hoping that you get like some good maps. Old classic Lijiang Tower. It's part of the bones of Overwatch competitive, Scrimjiang Tower being its other operative name. But looking at the bans at the moment, Moths will be starting out, and I'm not actually sure what their starting roster is yet. But I doubt they're a team that's going to want to ban Hazard first if Hattori is playing.
Yeah, firstly, can we take a moment to mention you said Scrimjiang Tower? I've never heard that before in my life, rather than the much more reasonable Lee Jae-gon Tower.
Ah, right. So
that's what people call it.
So back when you were in a crib and I was scrimming in golds, that's what people called the map.
Because of Lee Jae-gon.
No, I agree with you. That's a great name.
Oh, we spent too much time together to actually cast. Right, we see. Ryan ban is a bit questionable here. Ryan can be annoying, but I would kind of say that he's the worst tank in the game right now.
Yeah, probably saving.
He's on like Malga tier. I guess
Yeah.
you call it a tank protect. If you're Moths, though, if there are more valuable tank protects that you could get through that would be like annoying for you to play against. You could ban like a Roadhog, or you could ban like a Doomfist, or you could ban a Bull or a Zarya, and all these would be something that is valid. The Rhine ban, I think, is unfortunately not that optimal, and if you're Dragon's Vanguard, as I recall, they were playing a lot of Doomfist in the past. Now that you have tank banned through, you've got kind of the world open. I would probably imagine you just go towards a Kajuna ban, get out of the way early on.
Yeah, look, casting our mind back to when we
expect them to be on the Lukiri. Moths are going to be playing Juno. They have a player called Juno. Like, just get it out of the way. It makes a lot of sense. And then, from there, once you get a better idea of exactly what they want to play, then you can adapt your bans after this map 1. I will say, the meta are in very wide open. Right? A lot of things are going to be very, very playable. And we've seen in Soup Cup and in the OWCS promotion relegation tournaments, we're seeing Orisa, Hazard, Diva, Winston, Ramatra, and then the kind of two main backlines have been this Juno Brig and this Kiri Lucio setup, right? So there's so many options out there right now. So I think just ascertaining what your opponent wants to move towards is going to be the strategy 95% of the time when it comes to these bans.
Yeah, and you've seen so many different variations of backlines, and you see a lot more flex support, double flex support backlines. Obviously can't play this map because it's banned, but I do like the Juno Ana backline. I'm a fan of that one. It's a bit different, but I do enjoy seeing both those cards put together. Of course, if you're going to be playing Dive on Legion Tower, you've got the classic Overwatch 2 of Lucio and Kerry. Of course, Ana's still very strong because of those perks, so you have to be thinking about what perks you want to be playing as well. And Ana has great choices against both Brawl and against Dive, with the groggy sleep being disastrous for Wrecking Ball comps and Dive comps, where the double nade, if you place it well, really destructive against those tight fist, clumped up together compositions.
Yeah, I think Ana's not in the best place in the world, for what it's worth. But extra nerf onto the nade cooldown to make it 14 seconds is long, man.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, she's not bad by any means. You'll still be playing on maps with verticality, but teams who force Ana Brig on flat ground maps are going to struggle. Take a gander at the Moth lineup, as it has been, by the looks of things, largely confirmed. Here we see Pro Player, Dactus, Jazzy, Juno, and fresh off of being knocked down to Face It Masters, Hitori. I would absolutely hope she's got something to prove, because unfortunately it's been a very quiet streak, a very quiet season in 2025 for one of the breakout players of that last year. And this game against Dragon's Vanguard, for a player, of her caliber, who's looking to again be one of the top 8 in the region, really should be looking to steamroll the French roster they're playing against.
Yeah, I love a player when they get into a position where it's time for the revenge arc, it's time for the comeback, and I've been a fan of Hitori for many years, casted back into the old days of bedroom orgs and their competitions, and I'm sure Hitori is going to be able to hit back, especially with, by context clues, their wife Juno? Based off of the additional information given. But Dragon's Vanguard is looking to be yet another curb in their way to trip them up forward. XDDQT and Yuji, they have actually been a very strong DPS line, following up on what Hyper can do on the Doomfist, who's very strong. Then of course we've got Dandu and Azu holding down the guard in the back line. And if you want to know a little bit more information, Dragon's Vanguard and this team are a French organization. These are all French players, and they're looking to do their nation proud in CGL.
Yeah, that they are. I think XCDQT was the player who impressed me most when I got to actually watch them, finding some ridiculous things from typically Hitscan. Obviously, the Tracer as well is picked as that special hero, I suppose, representation. I have the greatest word for it. We're just waiting for lobby to be sorted out by the looks of things. I'm seeing that the last... we are waiting on a player for Moths, by the way. That'll be a minute or so. So, you're stuck with us for a little bit longer. I haven't really prepared any waffle targets. Oh no, got one actually.
Yes.
We've got the China tournament starting in just a week or so, 18th to the 20th. Are you going to be waking up at the 6 a.m. or so to catch the action?
I'll be waking up at 5:30 to go to work every day, but
employed.
I am unfortunately employed, but I will be on my phone to check up. I've been lacking in keeping up with OW esports, but I'm going to be keeping more of an eye on it, especially with the China tournament coming up. When does it start next week?
It's on the Friday, I believe. Exact same format as Stockholm, with the first of twos for the first round, and then finals on the Sunday. I gotta say, I think we are going to continue the trend of the home region having a bit of a stinker. From the matches I watched from the first OWCS China season, I don't think the CN teams are going to be fantastic. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I think that if Team CC take a map against anybody, I'll be surprised. And OA, I don't think they're going to be much better. I don't think this is the meta for them. And I think it turns out not having Overwatch for a couple of months makes you bad at Overwatch. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, I think not being able to play the game kind of hinders a player's ability to play the game at the top level, but I give the region a bit, and it'll find its way eventually. I mean, it's not too hard to be better than NA, let's be honest.
NA might even be better. It's that level of cooked. I mean, remember, we've got, once again, we're a Winston OTP team. Winston's not that good right now. And their ground control comps were... They have an int timer, I'll put it that way. They have an int timer, and every 4 fights or so, they will just troll for no reason. Gooseray will end himself in the backline like he's Donghak, or Leave will just overpeak for 0 reason. It could be messy, but that's enough of that, because we should be going in momentarily.
Yes, no Chinese players here, unfortunately, but it's a team of Frenchmen looking to ruin the day for the Moths, as we are... on the verge of being ready to go into this one. And reminder, folks, this is our big pool. This is our open league. This is the best of the best are able to play in this league. There are prize pools available. Like, there is actually money on the line here in CGL in this open league. So it's not all tickles and giggles here for these players. It's time to lock in and get some cash, get some moolah to fund yourself forward in your other avenues if you're in Face It or what. So, but it is time to continue and to begin actually the season 15 playoff bracket.
Yeah, that it is. Of course, Li Jiang start going to be on Night Market by the looks of things. Hitori on the Orisa and Lucio. Okay, so this is going to be playing heavily around your Nanoblade win con, so if Dactyls doesn't perform, Moths are going to heavily struggle. The rest of your core, though, has to play very far back. You're playing for an incredibly extended poke phase, waiting for your Ana to hit anything at all, realistically. Whereas Dragon's Vanguard, yes, they also want to play slowly, but Hyper Zhonu will be able to get a lot more stuck in than Hitori will. So it is going to be a lot about how much value Hyper Zhonu can find into the Orisa. I think it's more Dragon's Vanguard's mistakes that would counter more than anything else.
Well, Bro Player is going to be playing from spawn. A nice boop off the high ground there also, as Juno finds himself in the firing line. Yeah, missiles to your face tend to do a lot of damage, so I'm not surprised that happened after Bro Player got double dinked by it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think for the Moths, their comp is not fantastic at, angles control, lane control. And so usually XDDKT take all the angles in the world and, of course, just explode. I believe that was Bro Player in that first fight. The pick onto XCD does make a recontest a little bit easier for Moths, but a cap they would have loved to get early.
Dactyls on a very wide angle, just capping the point. Meanwhile, the fight is underway. Bro Player goes very low, and Hyper did get Anthony, just kind of stopped their aggression momentarily, but Bro Player is very much getting targeted here. This feels like a concerted effort to just take them out. With Dandu going down to Dactus though, another opportunity has arisen as Satori kind of stalks her way onto point here. Just looking to be a lamppost on this point. Just be this anchor. Azu gets booped by Jazzy perfectly into that corner, so the follow-up's there. Tori taking Hyper out, and now they can clean up Yuji and keep control of the point.
Yeah, a relatively fast recontest there. 28%, you're getting closer to these ultimates. That being said, the Nano of Dragon's Vanguard has much better targets. If you're Moths, you want to throw it onto Dactus, 30% away from the blade, bro player, for some more damage, or just hope Hitori kills someone with maybe a spear. If you don't have any great targets with Hyper Jono, Yuji both very valid.
There's a Nano onto the Doom Fist, gonna find bro player who just finds himself in the unfortunate position of being the first one to die in every single fight. Hyper is struggling to land those final shots onto the Ana. Decides they don't want to ult. Does have the point, to be fair, but it has given an opportunity for Yuji, who falls off the map?
No, he barraged himself. I don't know how, but he barraged himself with the self-damage.
Oh no, that's a disaster! And now you're wishing you probably did pull the trigger on the Doomfist as Hyper is just desperately trying to come back. The point switched over anyway, so now they're just building ultimates for the enemy team.
I mean, at least, to my eyes, it seemed like Hyper Jono just missed the timing. By the way, the Nano boost from Juno did come through into Bro Player, but wasn't enough to keep them alive. That being said, 55%. It's a great progress. I'm about to sneeze. I won't.
Oh.
I'm going. I'm safe. Oh, Dactus is so low. They need to run.
Oh god, well, Dactus is gone. The beat did not save Dactus. Blade is out of the picture, and this beat has been purely defensive and best defensive capabilities that they were looking to get. XCDQ gets bullied on entry, very restrained on this recall, has decided not to use it to get healing up. Very brave Tracer player indeed. Stick comes in, finishes Tori off. Meanwhile though, Jazzy's done work to find Dandu, taking him off the board. Hyper though, going aggressive right into his backline. Dactus is a sole ninja here. Jazzy trying to help them to follow up, get elimination. Yuji just doesn't want anyone to eliminate them. I think that's what it is. They just want themselves to be the one that takes them out.
I mean, so far that's happened, at least, to the value of his team, maybe less so, right? The point in favor of Dragon's Vanguard. Tori back on the board, of course, able to get plenty of disruption. A kill onto Azu, not on the cards just yet. A two-man beat, not high value, especially as the flip comes through.
The Nano onto Jazzy allows a very aggressive boostio into the backline. Jazzy then flounders and can't really find too much after it. But with this ball and Genji still on the point, it's not going to be easy to dislodge. They'll very easily get to 99%. Chances for a High Noon to come back from Bro Player and create some space, but very easy to mini-stun it out as the Doomfist. Overtime ticking away. They are forced to touch. Yuji is not in this fight. Dandu falls right before Nanu by Azu. No more support. And they're just going to slowly take out Hyper and finish this point at 99%. Oh, Bro Player just about misses it. They've been practicing at their dodgeball, and they will secure the first point here in Lijiang. It was messy, though. It was very messy.
I gotta say, I honestly felt like Dragon's Vanguard was probably playing better. They're just also making more stupid mistakes, right? Giving over that flip, for example, just took away a fight that they probably, should have won, or at least stalled for until 99, right? Obviously, Hitori is able to find what value she can on the Orisa. Not the first tank you'd think of as a carry hero, but you do have some kill power. And yeah, you see Bro Player, we're getting in Nano, just insta-Ajaxing it. Nano, or the Boostio is questionable. It's questionable. It found one. But when you're Nano, you want to go a bit more than 1 for 1. I will say this is going to be a much better point for the Orisa if you want to play it. You can play Ball here as well, honestly, and it's pretty strong as well, and a much easier matchup for the Doom, I have to say. So we're getting kind of funky with it, but I do like this matchup.
Yeah, it does kind of leave Bro Player even more alone, and with them being the first pick in most of those fights, does mean that they're going to have to be very well aware of how diveable they are. Meanwhile, Yuji is flying where there's a very low ceiling, and well, who are you going to fly against? The Moths? Well, they're used to that one. It seems like the Dragon's wings have been clipped in that regard. Jazzy is going to go down to Dandu. is traded. Hattori finds Anna. There's a little bit more presence right now, but with that cleave punch, it all turns around. The Suzu is not going to be enough to keep Juno alive, and while the point has swapped over, all it takes is just to clean up Jazzy and push Hattori off this point to secure it back in their control. Massive boop from Jazzy. Hyper, like a bull running after a red rag, fell for that one. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Oh, lovely dash as well to clean this up from Dactis. Yeah, the extra damage from that dash is coming pretty nicely. But we'll go down to Dandu. The recontest is here in time, by the way. So even though there's no flip yet from Dragon's Vanguard, they continue to keep the pressure up.
Yeah, pressure's still up, and eventually Juno's going to fall. Now it's, again, forced to touch. Pro player down. Hattori could choose just to retouch after Jazzy, keep the point alive, but finally they're going to alleviate the pressure of themselves and back up.
That they will. 40%, not too bad whatsoever. Right, we're coming closer to ult Dactis with the blade going to be the first one available for Moths, but a Meteor Strike, double support ults by Dragon's Vanguard mean they should be pretty comfortable.
This is me ball gameplay for sure, just trying to backdap and then be confused why it didn't happen, but it's always doing a lot of space creation here. Meanwhile, the rest of the team, including Dactis, can try and follow up on this. Dactis needs to be very careful with that nade, just about escapes using their stealth skills. The blade is ready to be pulled, but the nano onto Hyper is going to be a very aggro leader of Talon, looking to punch right into the backline, and the follow-up is huge. Hyper getting the maximum value of that nano. I want a triple kill at this point. Hattori is investing mines, perhaps to swap, I would imagine, surely.
I mean, she's just going to give him Power Punch to Hyperjon at the beginning of this next fight, especially when Jazzy is coming up to the sound barrier. Not exactly what you'd love to see. The Roadhog, okay, fair enough. I like this. It's a good counter. Roadhog's pretty strong right now, all things considered, but going with no perks is not where you typically want to be when you're playing this hero.
Even I'm a perkless Roadhog walking into war, Hattori looking to turn it around, but meanwhile, Hyper found role player, okay, check. Azu falls up onto Dactis, okay, check. Meanwhile, Hattori and Juno actually turning it around. Dandu gets caught out by Roadhog there, another big hook right into the trap. Hyper taking a lot of damage, finally needs to use the ult, gets that self-healing. Comes right down, right into another hook. Finally, Blade pulls out, got the Kitsune Rush effect. Also, we'll be able to take Yuji out with it, who also pulled the Blade, just not quite as effective as Dactis was.
Yeah, I think if you're Dragon's Vanguard, you probably did need to invest more than the Meteor Strike there, considering Moths went Blade, double supportal, and reset the ults on Pro Player and Hattori, right? So, you'd kind of like to have the Blade back. You're going into this next fight, you'll probably have a lead on supportals, you've got a Pulse Bomb. What can you actually make do with it? That's what we're going to have to wait and see.
Anti-nade onto Hattori means that she needs to just relax a little bit on that corner, but now she's hunting for those opportunities. Dactis very nearly got punched into that wall and taken out. Meanwhile, Bro Player finally the one to open the fight, getting a little bit of vengeance onto Dandu, who goes down. Hyper has traded it out as Dactis falls. Hattori coming up to Whole Hog. This is looking like it will be the last fight here, as the beat comes in for Dragon's Vanguard, allowing them to go very aggressive. XCDQ living on a hope and a prayer right now, but they get Whole Hog off the point and into spawn. Hyper meanwhile finds Juno, which means that Suzu not available for this anti-nade that hits both Hattori and Jazzy. Hattori very much on the brink of death right now because of that. Finally followed up on Hyper with the nano. That's going to finish it off. Dragon's Vanguard equalize here on Lijiang.
Yeah, Nano Doom turns out is pretty good. I feel like people don't speak about it as much. It's not like a Nano Blade, it's not a Nano Winston. But honestly, in pretty much every Doom team I've seen, the Nano Doomfist is essentially just a fight win 9 times out of 10. We're kind of seeing it here. Hyperjon is just allowed to kill kind of 3 people every time he gets their ultimate. And Moths are fighting now absolutely the hard way. I think maybe a bit of an overcook on that Wrecking Ball. They didn't seem so focused around it. What they found was, you know, when they would heavily ults, they would win. Yeah, you kind of win on ults against the Doom if you play anything at all. And even when they went onto the Hog, I think you just aren't getting enough magic picks to really justify it. So we'll see if they continue to Gardens. And it seems like it's another look over to the Bull Nook, the Sim players from both sides, meaning that we're going to be in the center of the map expediently. Real question is, what do they sort of do afterwards and mirroring out the tracer?
Yeah, of course, no swap from Hybrid here. They've been doing so well here. Almost punched Jazzy right off the map and continues to go aggressive and follow up on the Lucio player who Jazzy kind of felt like they had plot armor there. Unfortunately, not the main character, it would seem. XTDQ is going to win out on the Tracer duel against Pro Player and gets onto Dactus as well, as they've started to warm up also and are dealing just as much damage as Hyper, and as that starts to be the outlook, Moths need to be very well aware they need to catch up here.
Yeah, that they do really struggling right now, unfortunately. And I mean, when especially as Zafara and Anna set up defensively, trying to take the space for anyone who isn't Hitori, arguably Pro Player, is going to be absolutely brutal because the amount of spam you're going to be eating is, I mean, you can see it exactly here.
Well, Dactus decided, well, I don't like the thought of that, so it's just going to take Yuji out of it very quickly. Hitori takes out both supports with the grapple hook. And that is what you want to see from your ball player, not just make the space, but cause havoc for the enemy team.
I mean, you magic pick Dactus, you roll through with somebody else's poked out as well. We shouldn't be getting poked out at any time in this composition. Juno hit some great shots for that to be the case. Blip obviously not through just yet, as the stall from Dragon's Vanguard is great, actually.
Yeah, this is crazy. Forcing the mines to come out as Dactus actually falls and causes a brief concern. Nice follow-up from Bro Player, but that was a great percentage build from Dragon's Vanguard.
Yeah, 46%. You may lose your Anna, which isn't ideal, Sliving with a single point of HP. Dandu is, by the grace of God, allowed to survive, and now you get an incredibly fast refight.
Born again into this next fight. Pro Player gets meleeed out with the blink melee. XDQ very much more comfortable in the Tracer player right now. With the stick, just cements that as well. Juno had the nano, had being the most important word there. Not going to be used in this fight because they got taken out early. Dandu was aggressive there, gets taken out by Dactus, but they have...
Yeah, letting kills the Genji, so you kind of chilling, no?
Exactly, and the points been swapped already.
Yeah, so great work from Dragon's Vanguard on that recontest. Note how it's the backline being killed right before they have ults. Jazzy died 97% of the way to that sound barrier. Juno, of course, no chance to lose the nano before they're pulsed out. And now Dragon's Vanguard again set up. Hitori tries to scale on the rooftops, but right now doing very little.
I mean, it's Spider-Man gameplay now available on Steam, not an ad, but not quite effective. Especially when you have the enemies on expert difficulty, which is what they have right now against Dragon's Vanguard. Coming in with the moving barrage, UG does not take themselves out, has upgraded from that at least, didn't get very much follow-up. XDQ, meanwhile though, able to take Dactus out, who had the blade. That was a definite win condition moving into this for Moths, and with Juno gone also, they're also not going to have the nano. This beat needs to be nice and aggressive, but it's immediately matched by Azu. Yuji needs to play a little bit more careful on a sliver of HP. Finally, Pro Player finds him. Hitori will find Azu. The mine's going to split them up, and that was a fight they desperately needed to win, and now they still have that nano blade. It's looking a little bit better for them.
I mean, Dragon's Vanguard also have a nano online as well. XCDQC. Ideally, you stick to Juno. That's the biggest pick. If you take care of her, then instantly you just basically win because you can nano your own doom. Nano Blade is scary, that's for sure, but Azu, Hyper Juno, it is possible to peel this off.
Very aggro on the blade there. It was a nice anti-nade also. Yuji will fall. Very aggressive. They allowed them to go in a little bit, but they have plenty of time that they need to defend this point.
Yeah, they don't spend the nano, but there's no nano blade, so you'll take it. But still, the moves are doing crazy.
Nano comes onto Yuji this time, actually, and that's going to be a devastating amount of damage. Juno actually gets booped off the map, and with Jazzy gone, your backline is just not there. Dactus did get the nano, but has not found any follow-up, will eventually fall, and now that point's ticking over. Overtime is halfway done. Hitori nowhere near the point. It's going to be on Bro Player to touch. They get the pulse bomb out, but not before they get pulse bombed actually by XDQ. Hitori able to touch, keep it alive here, but it's going to be kind of a hope and a prayer that they can take this one. They need a miracle, but Hitori will not be the angel of miracles, as the angel of death, Yuji, from above will take them out. Dragon's Vanguard, they take Li Jiang, and I would say they played as the better team. But that was a chaotic start to this series.
I would absolutely say they played the better team here today. It felt like Dragon's Vanguards were, like I said, they were making more mistakes, but they're also making much more consistent plays, right? Like this fight here. This is just a fight you should never, ever be losing. I don't ever understand how you get outpoked when you're playing Farah and they're on and they're on Genji Tracer. It's not how the game works 95% of the time, but stuff like that kind of kept happening. On the other hand, though, when that wasn't happening, they'd kind of just win, right? I mean, Hitori, I think her hero pool, especially without Haz, you can't really carry with it. You know, on your kind of, I mean, we're seeing the ball didn't find that much, right? Her Arisa, not that much. So, I think that does make it kind of hard for her to kind of express her skill in this lobby where, you know, on paper she is going to be the most accomplished player, the best player. And I think that it's the opposite for Hyperjono, whose hero just means you can kill 5 people, and that's exactly what he's doing.
How does a good Hazard match up against a good Doom in this environment?
The Doom has to can't play in. It's kind of like you're playing into like a Ramantra almost, where you're great at disrupting, you're great at like going in and out, but the wall is really annoying for the Doomfist to try and deal with. A lot of the time will mess up your exits. The root is particularly annoying. If it actually hits, there's nothing you can really do. But 9 times out of 10, these heroes almost don't interact, right? The Haz can't really catch the Doom can't do enough damage to really put the Haz on notice.
It's that kind of moment where they're kind of both flying past each other, but not at each other, and they glance each other's eyes, not in a romantic fashion, but in just like an acknowledgement, or maybe romantic. You never know. Anyway, I'm going completely off track. Dragon's Vanguard are starting in the lead, and to be fair, right, Dragon's Vanguard did not make it into the mid-season playoffs, where Moths did, so they didn't have a great start to their season. But they're a team that has shown great strength in the comeback. There's only really a match differential between Moths and Dragon's Vanguard in terms of the leaderboard. They're very close in terms of score. The map differentials where there's the biggest difference in terms of the leaderboard, about a 4-point difference, Moths in the lead in that regard. Apart from that, they are quite close, and obviously watching this one, Dragon's Vanguard, they seem be a little bit more of the put-together team, where Moths are much more giving the vibes of kind of a team put together for CGL. You know, where it's like, not to say they're not trying, but obviously, like, I think Dragon's Vanguard are more of a cohesive unit right now, for sure.
I mean, Moths, you know, played together in, face it, they lost a 3-1 to Power Clappers, I believe in an elimination game. Obviously, Dragon's Vanguard do as well. They lost to Meavdron 3-0. You know, shout out my boy Envy and Nelio one time. But yeah, these are both expert level teams. They should be, you know, playing at about the same kind of performance level. But I think just parachuting Hitori in, I absolutely understand why you do that. But I think we're seeing it's not working out so well. You know, maybe ZLS, Moth's standard tank player in Face It League. Even if they're not, you know, as mechanically good, even if they're not making as good decisions, just being, you know, more of a cohesive unit would be more of a benefit to Moths right now, who, I mean, it kind of feels almost like a ranked team, right? I don't think they're really going for many plays as 5, and because of that, it's just, they're getting incredibly heavily punished. Yeah,
it definitely feels like that, where, you know, a lot of the time, while Hyper is aggression, you're seeing XCDQT find something on the other side. Like, the aggression is matched. It's while it might not be on the same angle, it's at the same time, and that timing's everything, because it's about splitting attention enough to create those opportunities. And I think Dragon's Vanguard definitely doing a better job at that, which definitely means that the Doom ban is going to happen at some point, right? At some point in this series, you're going to have the option to do the Doom ban. It's just when you want to do it. I believe we know the next map. Drum roll, please. You'll be shocked at this one, folks. It's King's Row. Crazy. We are going to the bottom of the barrel of Overwatch maps. You never see this one. But what's important now is who we're going to see these teams ban.
Well, if I am Moths and I'm banning first, and I just got removed by that Doomfist, you'll think, well, maybe Doom, the kind of angles comp isn't going to be fantastic here, so maybe you try and go for something else. You could ban out something you're not gonna play. I wouldn't mind banning like a Cassidy, for example, if pro player prefers a Sojourn or Sojourn prefers the Cass. You could ban. You're not gonna ban Genji. Dactyls prefers it too much. And even though XED it does prefer the Tracer, Tracer's just not good enough here. So they opted towards the Pharah instead. I think this makes a decent amount of sense.
Yeah, especially on Kings, there's lots of playgrounds for Pharaohs to have fun. You know, the first point, lots of good corners for them to play from. Street phase, you can play around that kind of central rooftop where you can get over, find great angles, get very quickly onto squishies. So I think that's a very fair choice from Moths.
Yes, and if I was playing against them, then I'd just ban Orisa, to be honest. I think Orisa's annoying. I think you will be particularly annoyed by Orisa, you know, basically no matter what you play, unless you do want to go towards that Rhine, no validating that pick from that map number 1. But we shall simply have to wait and see. I'm trying to think of any other valid bans. Now you got Juno out the way. Lucio, maybe? You could Lucio ban if you want to play, like, Brig Juno, but I don't think that's that valid. I know Jazzy is more of a Lucio player as memory serves, but I still don't really see the vision. I just ban Orisa.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think that Jazzy was probably the better Lucio, though, so you could go for that. Ramatra is going to be the choice. Okay, I don't really know if we were going to see Hitori play Ramatra. Not really a tank that's come out from Hitori too much recently. You know, you're definitely going to be more likely to see the Orisa come out, so I'm not really sure what the thought process is behind that one.
I mean, it makes sense. Ram is good here. Like I said, I would imagine the Orisa is more prominent. But if you want to, you're saving it for another map, or if Ram is just a particular pain point for you, then I think it makes enough sense. I think now you all want to know up, you can be a bit more exploratory with your bans, right? Maybe try and save it for a more optimal kind of moment. And especially on King's Row, where a lot of stuff kind of won't fly, you're more angles heavy kind of stuff, then I think you can get a bit more, creative, involved, whatever you want to call it. But as you mentioned, it's not something we would have necessarily expected. That being said, I feel like both teams have kind of happened onto relatively weak bans, all things considered, onto this map, and I think they will be playing basically what they intended to once those spawn doors open.
Yeah, I doubt we see too much change from either of the teams, really. Roleplayer very quickly did swap off of the Sojourn when they were, like, briefly on it at the start of Lijiang, so perhaps they come back out onto the Sojourn, knowing that the Pharah's not there, which is the pick that forced them onto Cassidy, or at least procced them to move on to the Cassidy. So perhaps we will see the Sojourn from Bullplayer instead.
I think Cass is kind of better on this map, especially. The times where
tighter
Sojourn is going to be stronger is on particularly long sight lines, or in points where you're going to be under heavy dive pressure by 2-3 divers. The Cass is stronger when you're under softer pressure. If, for example, they only have like a Genji, for example, or just a Tracer, shorter sight lines, that kind of use case, because you are doing higher DPS, of course. Your ult, I would argue, is much more consistent than an OC for clearing a sight line. And double... Okay, Kiri Lucio makes sense. I would probably prefer a Brig Juno here, because I think the setup is a lot more consistent. It allows you to poke for much longer. Lucio Kiri is mainly good for lane control, but on King's Row, there's only ever one lane, so I find that often the fact that your backline can take angles goes to waste.
If they're looking for lane control, maybe they're expecting XDQ to maybe be on the Tracer again, and that's why they're looking for lane control.
No, there's no lanes on the map. He can't go anywhere. The map is like... It's a corridor, essentially. Oh, headshot connected, but Hitori too much HP to actually consider accepting the PayPal.
Yeah, we're right onto the hard noggin of the Scotsman there, and they're going to survive it. Then now they're going to go into the Juno Anna backline here. Going to be a lot of opportunities with those nades still to follow up on, especially if Hitori goes in a little deep and gets slept up. Wall coming out is actually going to force Hyper to go in here. Juno in a bit of a predicament, but doing enough damage to justify being there. Hyper's just going to have to back up. Meanwhile, Yuji and Azu just fall down to dive as they noticed the rest of the team were just completely split off from Hyper.
Yeah, I probably would not be on double flex in a moment like this, unfortunately. Especially Anna, Juno. I think you don't get nearly enough benefit for what you get. Azu on a Lucio, I would prefer. On a Brick, I would prefer. On a Kiri, I think I would prefer as well. I think this maybe isn't the look, and so far we are seeing very little success from this.
Yes, but what we are seeing is success on the side of Moths and being able to be a little bit more coordinated, playing a bit more of this hazard composition, which I have seen lots of good hazard gameplay from Hattori in OWCS. Yes, Sakura didn't exactly have the greatest time in OWCS, but they were a pretty decent hazard player.
Yeah. Torb Tracer I like more. You can punish the Haz. I don't think that was the issue. I think the problem is you can't rotate your backline anywhere. But it is going to be pretty hard for Hattori. The Ana, the Tor, both pretty bad matchups for her. So we'll see what she manages to get done now that these heroes are much more prominent on stage.
Oh yeah, that is just a mean mug in the corridor there. Walled herself off away from the Torb, didn't quite realize on the other end was the trap being laid, the anti-nade there from Dandu. Meanwhile, though, they've been unable to push forward and utilize that space, and despite the defense being down a tank, it's only now once Dactus goes down that they have the opportunity to push, and still they struggle until finally Yuji finds eliminations. There's Rogue Player maybe face tank the Iron Bolts a little bit too much. Kitsune Rush coming out here right next to point, gonna allow Hattori to go in, get some extra fire rate to try and follow up there. Good wall's going to create some space for them as Jazzy finds Yuji also being very annoying in that backline indeed until they finally get found out. Hyper focusing on Hattori. Meanwhile, the orbital ray is going to come down right onto point. This is at least going to force that second tick. There will be a retouch right before the third, especially with the overclock coming out. It's going to charge Hyper, but Hyper goes super low. Just about gets Nano to stay alive, and with the Meteor Strike is going to choose to use it as an engage.
Wow.
It's enough to take Juno out of it, and the turret meanwhile finds Dactus, and that's enough for the attacking team to clean up and secure the first point.
Yeah, humongous value there, of course. Nano boost, it turns out, is pretty good. I think we've seen that, you know, more than enough in the past. And whilst I will say it's going to be much harder for this Doom now on a Streets phase, which is even more linear than, you know, the rest of King's Row, you also have Torvalds, you know, a Tracer pick is a possibility, absolutely. Moths have to go for a Beat Blades, and there's a lot of distance that Dragon's Vanguard can create very quickly between themselves and Dactus.
Dactus, of course, with the blade. Needs to watch that they don't go out first here. There's been some moments there where this happened. Rogue Player has really stepped up and now steps back down. Hyper finds him immediately on the follow-up to get the trade. That's a very low Ana momentarily, but gets the healing necessary. Wall's disruptive in the back. Hyper almost gets cut off enough to die, but Hattori finds himself in a very tough spot. She is going to fall down again to the turret.
Yeah, it's not the way you'd want your fight to go, especially considering XD dies first. You should be converting that, unfortunately, every single time, but it doesn't end up happening. You do have some ults getting close, and now the Downpour, who's going line for the first time, and Dandu especially has no countermeasures against it. See what happens if Hattori decides to lose it, or whether Dragon's Vanguard are this time able to get the opening pick.
You see, XD is very confident at dueling a Kiriko is going to go for the pulse bomb. That is going to blast down that extra health. Meanwhile, Rogue Player is going to get shot up there by the hand cannons of the Doomfist. Hattori, meanwhile, finding Azu. The trade's coming in, mostly a tanks, finding the value. Hyper just about misses that punch that would definitely hit Jazzy. Follow up there. Suzu brings out just to keep the backline alive, but that's a massive Meteor Strike right into both of them. Hits them with the cleave punch, and that's the backline gone with but a jab from Hyper.
Yeah, I mean, that's just high value. For the recontest from Moths, I think they beat really early. Jazzy just loosed it probably 3 or 4 seconds before she probably could have held it for, so they lose kind of all that shielding before they're actually in position. This Blade, of course, unfortunately blunt. Now Dragon's Vanguard, double support ults. The root is strong, the Kitsu is strong, but you need to catch people if you have a chance of converting this one.
Nano into Hyper, be careful because Hyper is on the prowl. Oh my god, Hyper's on demon time, god damn!
Such a great nano play, especially because with the self nano, then Dandu catches one for himself as well. Moths just got rocked, and now we're coming into last fight territory with an orbital ray.
Yeah, that orbital ray is going to be a lot, but it will be mirrored here. Hyper just about falls before they're able to build it, though, as they're going to let that Kitsune rush come in. Of course, there's not going to be a mirror to an orbital ray because there's only one Juno on the map. I'm talking absolute smack.
Happens sometimes. Maybe the time for XCD to get off Tracer. I think the pick is fine in theory, but on this point, it just kind of feels bad. Maybe Pulse and swap, maybe just, you know, throw away the Pulse bomb. I've played the hero enough to know that that thing's not really an ultimate. Usually it's poked out, Pulse gets very little, and the Dragon's Vanguard have to figure out a way to walk up and save. The Bro player can now make it a hell of a lot harder with OC.
Orbital Ray starts early, the walls come up there to try and create some separation. Suzu and everything pumped into Bro player to try and keep them alive, but that's not going to be enough to get them any value. Overclock, Hitori needs to back up right into this corner, trying to stay alive. They're just getting bullied, just about staying alive. Hyper has the ultimate, can use it to get some self-healing, pushes in. Meanwhile, the Blizzard comes out, which is nice. Some good boops on the wall right there, but the movement of Hyper is just a little bit too slick. Hitori is just in the thick of it. Finally will go down. Jazzy just trying to keep the point alive at the moment. There's 37 seconds. If they can bring it up to 0 at this point, that would be a win. But they're unable to, as they are just getting gunned down to retouch. The old classic Mei in the end will almost be enough for Hitori to be back, but not just in time. We finish King's Row with time in the bank, and god damn is Hyper good at that Doomfist hero.
Yeah, I gotta say, incredibly sloppy from Moths in my opinion there. I don't know how they didn't kite the orbital ray, because that orbital ray, it was in a different region. It was in CGL and A. But somehow they still managed to find value from it. It still manages to negate the overclock of Bro player, and, you know, maybe not win the fight outright, but if Dragon's Vanguard get their foot deep enough in the door that Moth tries, they can't jam it shut, and they did try, right? They get the kill onto Yuji, onto Azu, I believe, but the respawns were just there in time. And now time obviously already on the bank. I mean, this is exactly what you didn't want if you were Moths, right? This is their map pick. This should be where they have the biggest lead, but instead they are still kind of getting beaten. Not manhandled, alright, they're still, you know, competitive, but this is not the result you were looking for.
Yeah, on that last point, and I don't know how much this reference will stick in the Overwatch community, I don't know how many people play Red Dead 2, but in Red Dead 2, sometimes a rabbit will just run into the road, and you'll just run over with your horse, and you didn't really mean it. That's kind of what happened to Bro player. They were just on the road, rabbit in the horse lights, I guess, just got caught, got hooved by Hyper, just did not move out of the way in time, and unfortunately didn't get anything of that overclock.
Yes, not what you're looking for if you're trying to use the, oh wait, we're on Cass now. I like this more, to be honest. I think Cass, D.Va, you can just hard shoot Hyper Shonen. You can force space basically for free, and, you know, breaking the turret isn't too hard. So I don't mind this composition whatsoever. You just have to make sure that Hyper Shonen doesn't get punched.
Well, easier said than done. Dak is already on low health. He needs to get some love in there from the Juno Jazzy backline, as Hitori's going to move up a bit aggressively here to kind of bait Hyper in a little bit. Just needs to be careful that they're using his David metrics perfect, because that's a lot of damage. Yeah, Bro player immediately getting punched out of the map. Are we shocked? Not really. Hyper is just going to find those punches. They are just going to be able to find a way to charge those cleaves. Meanwhile, though, Jazzy has found Dandu. There are some trades here, but it's still Hyper who's just consistently feels like omnipresent everywhere on the map every time.
Yeah. I was about to say it's great effort from Hitori and Jazzy to find that one, but the fact that Hitori gets DMX and, you know, pretty quickly D-Live means that the actual downtime, the period where Dragon's Vanguard won't have Yuji and Dando, is much lower than they would have otherwise liked already. Those 5 players are back, and Dactis almost goes down.
A little too brave in the face of Hyper, we surely, like, that is the Thanos gauntlet in the hand of Hyper, and we're just like, looking it down the barrel, like, no thank you. Already finding perfect spots. This communication's on top. They know where the people are. Hyper just goes behind Dactus, forces them into some awful positions. great anti-nade there is going to force Hyper to chill momentarily, but Hattori's Baby Diva is going to get taken out.
Yeah, it's not the hardest target they could have went for, but they're getting exit frags all the same. Still more players leaving, and the Dragon's Vanguard look to be closing the box. Hattori, 2 minutes down the time, mate, decides to go towards the Sigma. It helps you win poke a bit harder, I guess. You've got the rock condition now on Hyperjono, but if you don't get the rock, you basically have nothing for the Doom. So a risky pick, and the nades are draining it.
That is a huge nade. Bro player will go down, but Hyper actually gets traded out. That's a massive opener right now for the team of Moths as they slowly prowl to take control. Dactus on the hero's journey up there as Torbjorn to set up this turret on this annoying off-angle. Hattori on the Sigma right now, just looking to hold it down. If they can land an accretion onto Hyper, it would be great, but they have already used it. They don't have that option. Now they're playing basically the middleman. Hyper gets slept up, and finally the CCs are catching up to Thanos, and they're not going to be able to snap that one into a victory.
Yeah, in my opinion, a relatively sloppy recontest there. If we started with the Nano Doomfist, then I think Hyperjono can stall for longer. You know, you actually have time to walk UG, for example, onto point. But instead we go Doom first, then Meteor Strike, and then he's back in and then he goes off point. Like, it should be better than that. I know the rock is annoying, but there are ways of playing around it other than just, you know, leaving the objective entirely. Moths now coming up to essentially 5 ultimates. Dragon's Vanguard spent 3 in that recontest. This raid has to be picture perfect, and the Flux cancel it out altogether.
Well, here comes the Ray. Of course, Hattori knows how important this Flux is. They've been punched inside, but still get a perfect Flux right into the high noon. That's going to be enough. There is a bit of an annoying UG Molten Core on the ground here, stopping the continuation of this pressure, but they'll be able to wait that out, continue to push, and that's the sort of coordination we want to be seeing more out of the Moths as they work together here to take out this boss health bar Hyper, who is still alive right now and at any time could just jump into the backline and get an elimination.
It would have to be somewhat risky as he, continues to mess around on that front line, kept alive mostly by Dandu. But Meteor Strike, see if it's good for any.
Oh, didn't quite get what they wanted from that punch. Juno will eventually go down. Finds Jazzy as well. Does make the smart decision to back up and get some health. Meanwhile, the rest of Dragon's Vanguard able to kind of pick up the pieces there. And, like, it's so aggressive that Hyper decides to do that and has their team's backing.
Yeah, and because he takes this much damage. Well, I was going to say you could probably give it all to Dandu to make sure you have as much of a nano as possible, but you probably will just set up for like an aggressive punch mid-rotate with like a nano boost afterwards if it feels necessary. There's no reason to go for any other pipeline here.
This is a little too confident on this front line. Jazzy gets punched into the back. That's a spinal cord fusion surgery required there for the Lucio if they want to get back into this one. And that's a nano Hyper. I've seen this one in my nightmares. I woke up, tears, sweat, blood pouring from my nose, and that's about the exact same feeling that the Moths have right now.
I mean, at the end of the day, Dragon's Vanguard use nano and Moths don't use, so you're still in a relatively okay spot when it comes to the ultimates. You're coming up to 1 minute left on that time bank, right? You've got a Deadeye, you've got a Flux, you've got Torbolt, almost got that beat. Dragon's Vanguard don't have anything really hard, but they're going to need to go mid-rotate literally every single time to stop Moths from setting up as indeed they are now.
God, it is demolition time as Hyper and Yuji just decide to go for it. Hattori is able to stabilize a little bit, but they'll get taken out, and at least there's a little bit of opportunity once they get out of spawn.
I thought they'd go next corner. I was still talking, but no, they want to keep the pressure high. XCD is... Who's going to pulse in spawn? What's the vision here?
I mean, Hattori saw that, surely. Like,
I think she did. Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she did for sure, and it's pinging it. Don't know what's going to happen here. That would have been a fun accretion if it landed. Of course, like, this kind of small amount of attention, like, you know that the Tracer's back there, and eventually you'll just give too much attention to it. Hyper will just find the elimination. Less than 10 seconds remaining. Bro just kept alive by a Suzu and a beat and by a god's prayer right now. Juno's able to find Dandu in the chaos. There's a molten core in the favor of Moths right now. Pro players High Noon got sent back to Red Dead 1. And right now it's still a struggle, but they have the advantage and they're able to start fighting back, and they will make it to the third point just about.
Yeah, guaranteed worst time bank, of course. That being said, because Dragon's Vanguard have less than a minute, OT is still on the cards. Just need to see a completion. Usually moves over to the Sojourn. Makes sense. With no more has, there's just no reason to stay, realistically. Dando, down so early with the closest spawns. That would mean that Hitori, if she's punished, 4v4, one that's going to favor Dragon's Vanguard.
That's the issue, right? Hitori can go for that, but Hyper can be everywhere at once. It gets elimination as an immediately behind Hitori, just body blocking her. It's terrifying, honestly.
Yeah, that it is. Okay, last fight territories. About what we're looking at. Hyper Juno has a punch. Juno insta-dead. This is exactly the stuff Dragon's Vanguard are looking for. They were really worried about Juno going for a Kitsu fight, but she just gets evaporated. Now they can use the Meteor Strike to keep the pressure high on that back and make sure that this Kitsu never sees the light of day.
Yes, and a lot of pressure for Juno right now to place this Kitsune Rush, to not get it cancelled, not to go down beforehand, and also to make sure they get the value from it. 20 seconds remaining. Moths do not want to go down 2-0 here. That would be a very tough spot to go back from. Juno just about stays alive, gets the Kitsune Rush out just about in time. Hitori able to find the value, getting Azu out of the fight. Daxus will fall, but it's been enough in the favor of Moths. Dragon's Vanguard, they find themselves in defense, but it's overtime.
I think you're pretty happy about that. If you're Moths, you've got Flux, you've got Beat, you've got Deadeye, you've got Molten Core, you have so much area denial. Dragon's Vanguard just need kills. Yuji kind of has to finish off this OC and Nano Boost as well. Going to be necessary if Dragon's Vanguard are going to hold.
Looking for those accretions, not quite found one yet. Would be very deadly. There's a High Noon, able to sidestep that punch that gets Nano, but Yuji finding Pro Player. The Beat's going to keep himself alive. Don't quite know where the Flux is, but Dandu goes down. Hyper also, and
Yes,
with
Yuji.
Hyper down, that's going to be it. Yuji is a little bit far away from the point there, and eventually it will be a capture. And because it was below a minute for Dragon's Vanguard time, it means that there is some chance here, some extra fights that Moths can have.
I mean, yeah, we literally just see that Moths have Infinity Ultimate, so even though, in my opinion, Hyper Juno just more than enough, forcing Molten Core, Beats, and cancelling the Deadeye, then that's not enough, because there's still also going to be the Molten Core that's still around, right? The value from that Beat and that Flux as well from Hitori. So, Dragon's Vanguard do a great job to whistle the time bank this low. Honestly, considering the comp they're playing, they probably shouldn't even be finding this much success. But the fact of the matter remains that Moths are still in the running to win out King's Road, to win out their own map pick. Just 26 seconds apparently separating these two teams. And as to who's going to take this, I mean, it looks to me like Dragon's Vanguard in those later stages had cleaned up their active smidgen. Just got to keep doing that, though, in extra innings.
Exactly. In the grand scheme of things, 26 seconds, it's not much. At most, it's an extra fight. But in reality, I think Dragon's Vanguard can just use it to get some more setup. Obviously, they're on the defense first of all. Moths have a minute here to do as much damage as humanly possible, and they'll be starting out on this Torb Cassidy, which was working a lot better against Hyper and Dragon's Vanguard.
See how it's going to work. We go for a super long rotate with our Torb. They're very much expecting Hyper Juno. They're trying to hard counter him. This rotate is relatively unharassed, actually. You'd expect the nades, the punches to be raining in, but so far not to be.
Yeah, very reined in so far from the defense team. They clearly want them in a bit deeper to get something done. Hyper poking in there. In boxing, it's all about jabbing, finding your range to see what you can do. That was a fairly decent punch, but again, it is slow moving here. They aren't in too much of a threat yet, or the defense. They can play with these 15 seconds that Moths have. It's on Moths to start to make play here, as they're just getting harangued. A little bit of a Torb duel, but the Anna of Dandu is there to support it. Dactus finally will go down. Basically got left completely alone and kind of expected that Hyper wouldn't go and see anything about it. It does actually follow up. Hattori there trying to do their best. Actually, Dandu and Azu have fallen. There's no supports available. Hyper falls, and suddenly it's a disaster for the defense off of the back of some great plays to take out the defensive supports, and they're going to full cap this point.
Either Azu and Dandu are crazy overextended, or they just got magic picks. Either way, it's not what you love to see, right? In just a minute, then Moths have been able to unlock the first point, and anything they get now is I mean, it's just, you're free, essentially. You haven't really got to stress too much about how far you get, because you are playing with house money, and in terms of ults, you are just loaded. The Doom comp just has terrible ults as well, just so good for Moths.
Oh yeah, the Kitsune Rush, I think mostly just to keep Hattori alive, who is going to thunder forward here with this Flux. Going to avoid getting punched out of it. Great accretion timing. That's great map awareness from Hattori, as Hyper is going to go in there at half health, forces a lot of resources out of their own team as their backline is getting punished here from these orbs of the Sigma. There is the beam, the orbital ray. High Noon doing a lot of the work of creating the space. Very aggressive positioning from both players though, who gets anti-naded. XCDQ gonna take Jazzy's head off. Hattori also falls to the overclock. And you know what? For 1 minute, getting the first point, getting it through choke, and almost getting it through that corner, that's a decent push. I think you're happy with that if you're Moths.
Yeah, if you're Moths, absolutely you're happy with that. If you're Dragon's Vanguard, you know that it's doable. You have, with a minute 26, a little bit more time to play towards your actual check marks. Right, if you want, you can go like Anna Lucio, Anna Brig, and just heart up on the Anna boost and pray Hyperjonu does what he's so good at. But also, it is a smidge marginal, right? If you just get, rocks obliterated a little bit too fast, then those go off the card. So I assume they're going to continue playing. Well, yeah, this 4-man call, the only question mark is what we put our other supports on. Juno, more of the same. Like I said, I'm still not a fan. I don't see the idea. On a map like Circuit Royale, where there are no angles whatsoever, that makes sense if you're doing it with a D.Va or a Sigma, a tank who can really hard frontline, right? But with the Doom, it just doesn't really happen. Moths, again, they're on this Torpcast. They want to ruin Hyperjonu's day. It hasn't really worked out, but it has been successful in at least checking him, right? I think the ult advantage, at least, that Moths typically would have, not going to be a factor, but we just need to find a way to open up proceedings, and that's what I'm really worried about for Dragon's Vanguard.
Jazzy repping the Moth trophy there, hoping that's enough to motivate themselves here on this defense. Well, Dragon's Vanguard, they have a little bit more time. It really ain't that much in the grand scheme of things, as you just see Hyper zip-zapping around the map, and Bro player opening it up onto Yuji. The response is there from Hyper, who looks to take them out and will fall again. Bro player, someone who has struggled, being the target of a lot of dives on Lijiang, now the one to step up on the defense.
Yeah, mistake from Hyperjonu, who overstepped, especially when you are down 4. You can't be walking forward with a block. You need to be figuring out your escape route and just can't get around the corner in time. Remember, we're trying to play for the Nano, we're not going to get one in time, and so Monkey is out to try and change something up.
You know, I don't hate it. I love a little bit of Monkey gameplay. Hattori gets caught out because of it and was completely alone, and now you've got great position to follow up on Juno, who did use one of the TPs there. Of course, we're in extra time, so everyone has full perks, so they'll be able to TP out. Go player again, fighting XCDQ, will fall to Azu, so it's very much in Dragon Vanguard's control right now to take this first point.
I mean, firstly, I gotta say, for Dragon's Vanguard, you will be able to cap, just don't see knife. There we go. Secondly, you're really scared about the ults that Moths have online. They're gonna give you the cap. There's no reason to ever retake here. They only need one fight, they know that. They're just here to poke. They're pushing? Why?
They actually are pushing with the high noon there. Hyper finds himself in a very tough spot! And someone shouted, pull the clay pigeon fell. Hyper is out of this match, and now the massive Flux will clean it all up. Yuji pulled the blade to try and do something miraculous, and Dragon's Vanguard get fully caught off guard. They didn't realize that point was a bright lamp and the Moths were gunning for it.
I mean, if you're Dragon's Vanguard, then you need to be hard shooting choke way more, especially when you're in double flex. Or, double flex backline. They were allowed to walk literally for free. I know they use speed and shield for it, but like, come on, we need to use a resource. I think the idea was from Moths that Dragon's Vanguard didn't have their ults with 95, but an ult track that accurate is bold to say the least. A weird decision, and even weirder that it wasn't punished, in my opinion, at least. And 1-1 now. Moths are able to just get over the line versus their opposition. Of course, incredibly close. But the reason I'm really not a fan of this double flex comp is that your neutral value as the Juno is relatively low, especially with the Doomfist. Your value is you can provide lots of HPS and consistent speeds. Doom doesn't really make use of the speeds, can't really make use of the HPS, he just doesn't have the health pool for it. And then when you're playing in these low time environments, when you're thinking, do we get ults, do we not? The Ana has a fantastic ult that charges relatively quickly. Juno has a fantastic ult that charges relatively quickly. But when you don't have somebody who's taking a lot of damage, like a Doomfist, you know, then you're just stealing ult charge from each other, essentially. They were both 90, 95 when they died without actually having their check marks. If you have basically any other support, that just is a non-issue, because one of them can play for damage, an angle mark, anything, really. I do feel like Dragon's Vanguard are shooting themselves in the foot somewhat with this composition. As it stands, 1-1.
It's 1-1. I think Moths really came alive there, and for the fact that Hyper felt the need that they needed to play the Winston, clearly something was wrong. That swap was very late, bit of a Hail Mary, and Hyper was obviously so used to the very quick movement of Doomfist that once they got cornered by that High Noon as Winston, there really was no way out. Jumping out was really the only option, and got popped like a balloon. Winston likes to say they're a scientist, but in that regard, they were a party balloon, and, well, there was a monkey with a dart, so to speak. But we're going to go to a quick break here, as we have had 2 maps. We're going to give the players a little bit to strategize, so we'll be right back after this break.
Yeah. 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 Memories. Memories. Memories.
The Dragons Vanguard are getting stripped down to their core as what's been working for them with the Doomfist composition has started to falter as they need to look to other options with the Winston. But was it just a fluke? Was it just the double flex support backline? Was it that it's King's Row? Lots of questions in that area because we'll be flying forward now on to our first Flashpoint map. And because it's a Flashpoint map, you know which one we're going to be going to. It is, of course, Servassa.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely a fair enough choice in terms of where to go. I think it's going to be really annoying for what Moths want to play. I think they're going to get out-angled. I think you need to go for a tank ban, because otherwise this is the freest Doom ban I've maybe ever seen. So I would probably ban, I mean, Ram if you didn't already have it, but you know, you spend that now. But like Roadhog, I think would be very valid. You could ban Orisa as well, but I think Orisa you probably want to avoid. It could come out on like a Runa Sappy in the future. So for me, I'd ban Roadhog. And then if you're Moths, I would ban something that's going to be annoying that I don't want to play. So I would ban Ana, you could do, but you want to play that apparently. I would probably target the backline though, is the practical upshot, right? They like to play this double flex if they can help it apparently, so just take that away from them.
Yeah, just take away their toys and see what they do. How they kind of bounce back from that. So far, it's been very brawly tank. So far, it's been the Reinhardt, it's been the Ramatra that has been banned, and now it is Hazard. Okay, that makes sense. Hattori was doing well on Hazard. I mean, for a lot of that, King's Row kind of pivoted onto Sigma, who, to be fair, wouldn't really do as well. Servassa, you can play Sigma. You can, I mean, there's lots of, especially the first point, there's lots of places where you can like play your range and get good options to set up.
You're really looking to play your
accretion,
range
so.
into a Doom. You're kind of looking to just walk at him, because Doom is comfortable when he can go in and out. If there's nowhere to go out to, then he struggles a lot. And you're looking to catch him on his engages as well. That's what your Rock's for. And then you've got your Torb to punish. So I think a Sigma ban, clever enough, gets the job done. Moths have to look at Orisa, Ram, or Hog as their options now. And thinking they're going to play that, how do they enable that? They're going to play Lucio Kiri, basically guaranteed. So I would be banning out Ana or Juno. But they could also ban, like, Genji, I think. If you're going to play Torb, they go towards the Ana. Fair enough. The nanocycles were pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, that Nanotyper was essentially the boss music kicked in and it was time to lose the map. So, I absolutely agree with that. And, you know, now it's down to the Moths to decide, you know, how are we going to tackle this Doomfist on this particular map type. If it's all about coming in and out, you know, you want to create friction. You don't want it to be so easy for the Doomfist to do that. You want to basically stand in their way. Or just swap places with them. But, I mean, Hyper's so good at being everywhere on the map. They're a tank that isn't all about just getting the eliminations. They're where they need to be, and it's a very good communication on the side of Dragon's Vanguard that you can just see etched into their play, and the fact that Hyper can be there at any given moment of opportunity that springs up.
See how it's going to work out precisely. I'd have to imagine that things are going to go a smidge better for Dragon's Vanguard than the previous map, but there's always a chance that they get caught up by, for example, the Orisa, like I said, could come through. I think here, though, XCD and UG will be very comfortable on these kind of double flex DPS options, like the thing they kind of like to play towards. Now they've got angles for it, I think it's going to be a hell of a lot better. And I think that we will need to see a lot of value from Torb cast to try and mark it, because I think if you just try and take the raw 1v1s, then, you know, though Daxis has been good enough, I don't think he's good enough to batter back the two flankers.
Also here we have the main character, the man that put the D in Pigeon. And, yeah, I was thinking the French player is also 3-1, but I guess it would be like, try, and then you go in. That was awful. I apologize for that.
I don't speak French as a matter of principle.
I haven't spoken French since primary school.
Juno's on map? Oh no, that's not going to end well.
That is, I mean, I almost want to call it self-harm, because Hyper's just gonna, like be like a cat with a ball of yarn with this. Oh, to be
Good
fair, I
good
mean,
value
you land
so
your shots
far.
like that,
He
then
does
fair
get
enough.
poked down. Hyper's Runner as well. You're down to less than half HP, but once the engages begin to come through, then I think it will be a bit more of an issue then.
Yeah, Tracer behind you, forcing you onto the high ground there, and they do have point control right now, but there's plenty of opportunities for Dragon's Vanguard to get back into this one. They are struggling to find those lanes, contesting the point, but it will flip to Moths eventually. As, oh god, yeah, role player just taking so much damage, and this uncontested Tracer finally getting looked at a little bit as they're forcing to flip the point, as the rest of the team has gone walkabout using this Lucio speed to try and trace someone down, but they're all over the place right now. The Immortality Field was used on point kind of haphazardly, and at this point they're just falling one by one to all the King's men.
Yeah, that they are. I mean, like I said, I'm not a crazy fan of this setup. I think you have to play even more as a 4-man unit. That Hyperjono is going to be pretty good at punishing as a Doom anyway. If I were them, I would probably move over to a Kiri and then move Broplay onto top. But it's still winnable. You just actually need Hitori to get a rock. If she doesn't, I think you just lose.
Very important to be landing those accretions. We have seen her be able to do so. Hitori is actually going to find Dandu. Of course, pro player is just going to get eviscerated by Hyper. Hitori continues to be the rock, so to speak, for the team. Hyper finally falling there to the damage done by Hitori and Dactus, and we're seeing Dactus now being on the Tracer. I believe role player previously was on the Tracer and Lijiang, so a little bit of role swapping there to figure out who exactly is the best to be on the role. Right now it seems like they've found a bit of comfort.
I mean, before they run double flex, now they're on flex hit scan, so pretty standard. We do call use flux and miss our roll. Not ideal.
Well, things could be worse. Dactus could be dead, for example. Very low. Hitori, yeah, it's going to get so much damage done to them as Yuji goes on stage. 2 HP, gets healed up eventually. It is 98% for Moths though, so they're not too fussed about losing this fight.
I mean, 80%, they don't have a proper recontest, especially if you get one exit frag about now. Like, you could. Juno, you can't die. That's why there's lamp and a shield, and she's dead all the same. Sure, you can touch, but now you've wasted all your ult charge on the Sig. Well, after you've already losing it, right?
Yeah.
But you're on ball. That ball isn't a thing. XCD does die, but that's first flashpoint in favor of Dragon's Vanguard. A huge step up. Moss decide that this is what they want to play with the Sigma. But I think you've just seen it don't really work out. Now they're pushing into an OC sightline, and XCD can pulse any rotation. This isn't a Kiriko. The BAP is ripe for the pulsing.
I mean, yeah, I get the branding of having the lamp on the team of the Moths, but it isn't going to work when there is a character that can push you out of the lamp into a wall and crush your spine. It's not going to work out very well for you. Overclock has been pulled at a very large distance, and the beat has been used in response, to be fair. So they have gone a bit of a trade in terms of the ultimates. Azu is going to go down nonetheless from the damage done by Bro Player, who sidesteps the punch and is now just hunting Hyper, who will eventually fall.
Yeah, I would have loved a little bit more there for Dragon's Vanguard. To be entirely honest, I don't think there's really a way Dragon's Vanguard can cap first point, especially as Azu realistically in Standu. Surely you can swift step out. No, not to be, as Cass is just free farming the backline. A full fight after the fight is lost. Just a huge mistake from the support players, and because of that, Moss try to pull this into essentially one-fight territory. Yes, you do at least have a Kitsy to play with, but Hitori can just flux to deny any value. Not a great spot at all for the team on their own that pick.
Ooh, a lot of damage done. I mean, to be fair, Juno is actually really landing these shots and really making it worth playing the BAP piece. Sigma Flux is going to go into Yuji, forcing that Suzu, but Hitori kind of drops herself into a really tough spot where the Hyenas have come to follow up on the opportunity. 97% on the board as Daxus does take XDQT out, but without Hitori and Hyper still being up there, that point is going to swap over.
You will take that every day of the week. I mean, you're so set up now for their defense. Moths have to go for an aggro Deadeye play, you know, hard speeding bro player onto kind of where you see Yuji standing now to clear the point. That makes their walk up so tricky, and Hyperjona will be able to use the survivability of the beat plus the Meteor Strike just to keep the pressure up, and doesn't even need to.
Yeah, Yuji just does extreme amount of damage and is going to follow up onto the other support here as you see the Baptiste desperately trying to land those shots. The point almost did get swapped over. Has actually pushed out Hyper's ultimate. 60%. Hattori just needs to decide if they're dying or staying alive, and eventually they'll fall.
Yeah, that they shall. Okay, you've got a touch if you are Moths. If you want. It kind of sucks. Stacties will have to do it. And Hattori, again, wants to try for it, moving over to the bull. Again, you know, giving up what all the charge she had on the Sigma. Again, I'm not a crazy fan of this choice. It's a huge risk, but it's going to pay off.
Especially if the overclock ready from Yuji. Bye-bye, pro player. That's your head, Gonzo. Who cares about the Peacemaker when you have a rail gun shooting rails through your skull? And you can just see Juno like so separated from the Wrecking Ball. These characters were not made to be played in unison. Jazzy comes back for the touch, but there ain't no chance in hell that they're able to get anything done. They're just going a little bit walkabout.
Let's go die on point. Like, oh my lord, we're in Narnia. We just get staggered. Hattori at least will be able to escape. That's, you know, one of the traits of that Wrecking Ball. But now we're mid-rotate, and we don't have the hero whose main purpose is to help our rotates. Like, you know, she'll be there in time. She gets relatively close spawns, but Dragon's Vanguard are here very comfortably first, and they've got ults as well to defend it.
Well, we have finally seen that composition change up. Juno is going to go on to the Kiriko, where Hattori actually going to be going on to the Winston. I think Winston's going to struggle a little bit here to get anything done. So many moving characters that once you've used that jump, you're kind of in. Meanwhile, Hyper has been the definition of in. Kind of alone though, and will get taken out by Dactus and the amount of damage that it was following up on. There are lots of small little miniature duels and fights going on across the point right now. I say the point, this is the wrong point
again,
that Hattori takes down Azu.
I mean, with the Winston v the Doomfist, you have much stronger cycles, you know, if you don't hit your empowered punch, basically. So, Dragon's Vanguard should generally transition to shooting Hattori as hard as possible, and only killing backline if you have Empower Punch or an easy scaling there. Hattori has to only kill Azu and Dandu. No one else really are scared of her.
Here's the beat's gonna come out there from the side of Jazzy, gets matched by Azu. Dandu doesn't get it, but it doesn't matter as a pro player is going to get followed upon by Hyper, the rest of the team. Hattori tries her best to get a trade, but Yuji is not worth all of the rest of your team, and at 74% they will lose the point.
Yeah, we see better ults coming through. It's as simple as that. Beat versus Beat Kitsu. Yeah, the Kitsu's better. It's hard to put it in any other manner, right? Dragon's Vanguard, Pulse, Meteor Strike, Choke Control, but essential perfection going to be needed.
Oh, the recall already forced from both Tracers now. Of course, both of them looking to see if they can make use of this Pulse Bomb, as Hattori struggles to find an in right now, taking heavy amounts of damage. That's going to be the Kitsune Rush. Azu is going to fall to the Disruptor, or Bro Player gets traded out with that Pulse. And I think Hattori wants to hold on to this Primal Rage as much as she can to try and have it for this kind of final fight, but they are still losing members. Hattori's going to have to force to come back onto the point right into the Overclock, which is doing a tremendous amount of damage right now. Primal Rage has finally been used. Yuji will go down to it, but I mean, unless Hattori's been really practicing the juggling, then I don't really know how much they can do. Actually, hold on 1 minute, it's possible. That's a very low health Dandu. They're just about doing it on a hope and a prayer and a massive playoff of Hattori.
Yeah, Hattori kind of just kills 5, keeping it a buck. There's no other way of really describing that. The Primal, obviously, great catch onto Yuji, sent off the map. The Juggle as well onto Azu. I mean, I thought she was European, but apparently you got some Korea in the server right now. And a reverse sweep now possible in Flashpoint.
Yes, it is, as they are marking towards it. Of course, they want to go down in this series either. Instead, they'd have to win the next 2 maps after this one. Pro player was damaged enough that the aura of that pulse bomb caught them, and will go down to a Jazzy Falls. So does Juno. Just one by one, they're falling. Not really much response from them.
Yeah, pretty nice here from Dragon's Vanguard. There's very little to say about that fight as Hyper Juno evaporates Dactus. Now you're set up defensively. This is one of the harder points to walk towards, because you fight so much forward of the actual objective, then Dragon's Vanguard will be able to find a lot of success in this pre-fight, which is often where they do their best work.
Kitsune Rush coming out here from the aggressive side of Dandu. They've layered their support ultimates here, and will take out role player the rest of Moths. Are able to get back beforehand, but Dragon's Vanguard, ever the aggressive team, doesn't like an opportunity wasted, as they will continue to apply this pressure and put Hitori and her team under lots of hurt. Hyper just about overextends, has the ultimate though, so we call that just extending, I suppose. And Bro Player again going to go down there. Hitori and Bro Player have traded out some of the picks here, but is it going to be enough and develop into actually getting the point? With Jazzy gone and Hitori only with the Primal Rage, it's going to have to be another miracle if they want to stay in this one, which at this point they need to, because it's 90%. So Hitori needs to come up massive with this Primal Rage. There is no if, buts, or questions about it. There's a little bit of space creation here. They have forced the recall right now. The sound barrier from Jazzy, nice and early to keep the team alive as they continue to apply the pressure, but they're not on the point. Oh my god, that was so close. There was about a pixel left on that overtime ticker, but they do get a touch on the point. They've got the eliminations as Dandu and Yuji go down. Finally, they'll be able to take Azu out of the match. It's slow and it's steady, but they are winning this fight out, and they still have a chance on Servasa.
Okay, so I'm assuming if you're Moth, you're going to do about what was done to you, go for this early Kitsu fight on that choke. There's no reason not to. You are scared of Dragon's Vanguard charging up to their ult, so you want to go for as fast a fight as possible. You don't want Yuji to be set up with this, so say, what is this flank?
Yeah, the Kitsune Rush is not there because there's a massive flank happening. Meanwhile, XDDD just gets the post bomb to Pro Player as we find Jazzy, and you're now 2 down. It's 99% for your opponents, and you're really hoping this Kitsune Rush can get anything done, but no one is on the point really to make use of it as Juno will fall. Point's going to swap over. Overtime ticker is up and running. I don't think Hitori can even get there in time. Bro Player just about slides into the point, but slides right to Kitsune Rush and Ikunai for their efforts. And yeah, I think a very mistimed off angle there when the Kitsune Rush was a very required ultimate.
Yeah, I think that wasn't ideal from Juno. Unfortunately, she loses all of her uptime and the possibility of a cleanse onto her Sojin to hit one body shot kunai and then miss her Kitsu. So it only sits on point rather than going through the doorway, which is what you want, so you can push out into the enemy team. You know, the idea is the Kitsune Rush fight both where you're fighting now and where they're going to kite back onto, instead of just where you're fighting now. So Dragon's Vanguard just stepped briefly off of the point and stepped back on and just got the flip. It's a bit of a troll to be entirely honest. Not ideal.
Yeah.
Dragon's Vanguard up 2-1 now in this series, just one map away from knocking that fellow Facer expert team right into the lower bracket in the first match of CGL playoffs.
I mean, there's sticking to your guns, right? I mean, that's a respectable thing to do in life, but when your guns are just outmatched, when you're fighting a tank, perhaps it's time to change up the strategy and not run the horses into the tanks. I mean, Baptiste into Doomfist is just like, oh, hello Flytrap, here's a fly, or hello, I can't think of anything else. I know nothing about animals. You've learned that today about me. I know nothing about animals. I need to be retrained in school. But nonetheless, what I do know is that the mythical creature of the dragon so far is better than the moth.
Has anyone told you, like, a top 5 WASH chatter of all time?
I don't speak French, Spec. I mentioned that before, so I don't know what you just said to me.
It's London. That's London. It's nonsense.
Oh, it's London.
Words.
You know, I wouldn't mind if London became its independent-owned country and just left the rest of us alone. I think that would be okay. Can we float London out into the North Sea? I think that would be lovely, actually.
No, can we get somewhere with a bit more sun? Like, you know,
I don't think Londoners deserve sun. Let's be honest.
Londoners, every Londoner is literally lovely. Name one more annoying or bad part of Londoner.
Oh yes, I live in London. I'm so lovely. Let me go back to my closet where I sleep sellotaped to the wall because there's not enough space for me.
Okay, and what of it? It's a lovely
like an
closet.
astronaut.
Very charming. Very charming.
Living in London is like astronaut training. That's the reality. You eat dehydrated foods and you sellotape yourself to the wall to sleep.
Yeah, we're living in the future, surrounded by technology. You wouldn't get it. Listen, if you're Moths, you've had a bit of a rough time. You kind of know what can get the best of your opposition, but you need to do it sooner rather than later, right? Being, down 1-2. As for maps that are still in the pool, how do you force a linear map? I'm trying to remember, to be honest. They have not decided to go towards a linear map as well, by the looks of things. They have picked... well, we'll talk about it in a little bit, I suppose. But safe to say, I expect a Doom ban to be forthcoming. Yeah,
because we've been waiting for it, right? This whole series, that Doom pick, that Doom ban has been on the horizon, and we don't want to see another situation where against Bum FC you choose not to ban Wrecking Ball at any point, because, I mean, sure, respect is respect, but also, like, there's money on the line. Like, you kind of want to win this bracket, so take away, like, their main tool, and going into Runasapi, it would be at least a nice chance to actually get it done.
Yeah, sorry, I was having a laugh at the chat. If you're Moths, there's no question here, you're killing Doomfist. You've gone Runasapi, this map has wide open space, it's got angles, Doom's pretty comfortable here. So there's no reason to not ban Doomfist. There's no map to save Doomfist ban for. So that's just going to be gone. That's not a conversation. There we go. I mean, it was always going to happen. So if you're Dragon's Vanguard, then what do you want to go towards? Because you're going to play probably like Monkey, Kiri, Lucio, I would expect.
Yeah, Winston's been the only other tank that we've seen.
Yeah.
Dragon's Vanguard play at least this series. I'm trying to rack my brain back to remember if they played anything else.
No, they haven't played anything else. I'm certain about that. But in terms of the ban, I think you have to ban like a Castile or a Torbjorn or some like anti-dive DPS. Maybe like a... No, they don't play Brig at all. What am I talking about? It's Jazzy. I guess it just like depends on what backline you want to play, and then just get rid of it. Whatever they want to play. But if you don't want to go for a backline ban, like I said, I think it has to be the Castor. It's as simple as that for me.
Yeah, I think that would be a great decision if you know you're going to be playing Winston. Either of those are a great pick because both of them are strong against it, and it's going to be Kiriko, actually, which is banned.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, they probably want to play like Anna Break, Anna Juno, but was obviously what they're playing a lot before. Kiri significantly restricts the options of what Juno can do. We saw them get a little bit creative though on that hero, so I don't think this is a terrible ban. I think it just limits them to their game plan. Basically, is what it does, right? They've taken away the Kiri pick. That's something that they're gonna be wanting to play, at least some of the time. But now it's no longer even remotely possible. That just means that if there's ever an opportunity where you might want to play a Kiriko, well, you're fresh out of luck.
Fresh out of luck and fresh out of oranges as we head into Runasapi and peel back on these teams as we are at a point where it is match point. Dragon's Vanguard on the verge of flying forward into a match against 0907 where Moths now, they have to really lock in. They can't make too many mistakes, and if any map is the map to bring it back, I love Runasapi for it. It's the ender or maker of teams. It is the pivot point where you can change your destiny But will it be enough for Moths? Is the Doomfist ban enough for them to take the map?
That's what we shall have to wait and see. Honestly, Hyperjonas Winston's pretty good, all things considered. I think he's a very strong player at that particular pick, and so it might not be over for them. It's not like this map is just a write-off. Obviously, the Queen is not a particularly comfortable matchup for you, but that being said, Juno and Jazzy are so punishable in the backline. Usually on the fire is a great read as well. Pro player has to go over to the Cassidy, and then he's going to be under so much more scrutiny from, you know, XDD and Hyperjono. So I think this is honestly a great read from Dragon's Vanguard. I think it's just a lot of pressure on Danu to hit those cooldowns and stay safe.
Yeah, because Pro Player was the first one to go down on Lijiang when that UG Pharah was in the air. They immediately swapped onto the Cassidy, and we didn't really see that Sojourn for a bit after that. Tori just kind of marking her spot at the moment as Queen on point. In this situation, kind of wants to get just a little bit of pressure onto point to force action from Dragon's Vanguard as the player struggling with the spam available. Needs to watch because they are getting just walked on by the Tracer. Does have the slide, but it's not enough to get away. I think there could have been a little bit quicker response to seeing that you were getting scaled on essentially by the Tracer, the Winston, and the Pharah at the same time, and this is going to be Dragon's Vanguard getting in control after this first fight.
Monsters have to play so proactively. Okay, we probably should have killed that Winston at 100. But other than that, we're fine. Dragon's Vanguard, they can kind of do what they want. They can exist. In longer fights, they typically win. But Moths have to play really, really fast. This being said, they have been winning out this deathmatch, at least in this particular engagement, but this is relatively low odds. Dragon's Vanguard, when they're back, I assume will still be in the lead.
I mean, yeah, losing a Winston is a bit of a rough one after that. Tori just pummeling in so much pressure and damage onto Hyper, and Pro Player will eventually follow up on the damage done. Hitori almost at her own ult there of the Rampage already, just by the pure pressure put out alone, and they're swinging this round to potentially get in their forward spot.
Yeah, they're doing really well, honestly. I think some big slip-ups from Dragon's Vanguard have upset their advantage. Now with Anna full-scaled high ground, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for Moss to get much further than this, especially with this great mark onto the Lucio. You do go the forward spawns for it, but Jazzy, I assume it's just a dead woman walking. Or skating.
Yeah. Oh my god, doing actually some wonders to just keep Hyper fixated on the coast side. There's enough space for Tori to build their own ultimate. Rampage comes out. They are going to get a zoo off of it. Yuji does have a perfectly placed barrage to take Hitori out of it. XDD going down. It's still a chaotic fight. The Winston's still in this one though for the team of Dragon's Vanguard, but the backline just getting harangued here. Yuji, of course, is not under too much pressure and able to clean up, but finally will fall to Dactus. These are messy fights, and in the chaos of it, it's Moths that are typically winning out.
Yeah, that it is. That's kind of what this Queen is good at, these really like disjointed fights where, you know, the lifesteal coming through from her blades allows her to just keep a little bit more sustained than Hyperjono ever can. Ult's closer here for the most part for Hyperjono and Coach. See if that works out for them.
Orbital Ray coming down from Mars to cause some issues. That beat very almost got pulse bombed out of the map. Azu will go down if their own beat health got evaporated by the pulse bomb. With Tori finding Hyper, that will be about all that the Winston called, and they continue to get great meterage coverage here. With still 6 minutes remaining, it's not awful for Dragon's Vanguard, but it's a great position to be in if you're Moths.
Yeah, absolutely. As ACD gets taken down by the missiles, a terrible start to this fight. Dragon's Vanguard, they had such a good start to the map, and after that, it's been entirely one-way traffic. Unfortunately, Moths appear to have figured out the way to force it to a map number 5, and there's only about 40 meters between them, and getting all the way there. The sleep missed, the nade of the shot not though.
Yeah, if you take away the monkey's typewriter, they will never write Shakespeare. Doomfist band has caused major issues here to Dragon's Vanguard, and they are finding some value here in this fight, finally, in the chaos, able to find order to it, and they are coming up to some of their good ultimates as well.
Yeah, they are. I think the thing I'm most scared of is obviously Hattori with that rampage being desynced from Azu with the beat. You don't have a cleanse. Obviously not having that sound barrier means that you need to go really early, otherwise you will get queen ulted. And whilst Hyperjono XCD will be okay, the rest of maybe won't be. XCD just wastes his recall, but so the rampage is relatively low value.
Yeah, he's going to have to back up. Hyper, in the meantime, is going to be showing the prowess of the Primal Rage, but that was a brilliant throwing knife into Yuji. Gracie doing wonders to take out the DPS, and now see Azu just being chased by the Queen of the Junkers here, and they will eventually get taken out. This is not quite open world Mario Kart yet, but it's feeling like it in some of these fights.
Yeah, that it is. Just walking forward right now. Moths right back to the objective, and XCD's just dead. That's gonna be more progress. Surely, that's Hattori. Can't get healing in time. It's awkward for her, but surely she'll be able to live.
She just lives there. The bubble was great placed, but they just stayed alive. The nano onto Hyper, but so much damage being pummeled in by the extra energy shots of Pro Player and their overclock. And with 110 plus meters right now, this is a great spot for Moths to be in. The dive comes in to try and split up this rotation, but Hyper, once they dive in, that jump's not immediately available to get back out. It ain't like Doomfist.
No, it is not. And with this weird deathmatch going back and forth, there's still extra progress on the objective. And it's still getting further and further. 4 minutes on that bank, and we're just, what, 10 meters? Slightly less than to completing the map. Hyperjono finally swapping off the Doomfist of his own volition. The hazard will help him poke for longer, help him live for longer.
We'll see what Hyper can bring to the table as Hazard, who has been seeing a lot of play again recently, but it's going to be the overclock starting by Yuji right into the rampage. Hattori finds himself in the middle of nowhere, but Yuji finds himself in the middle of no health with that rampage anti-effect being absolutely deadly to them. Talking about deadly, Dandu gets taken out by those pulse pistols of Dactus. And right now, it's looking like we might just be on the verge of a full capture here in Runasapi.
I diagnosed Dragon's Vanguard with a severe case of mental boomage. They're just absolutely collapsing. Not at all the same team we saw. Array makes this borderline impossible. Moths do what they can.
Big boss bomb onto Hyper is going to burst a lot of that health. The orbital rake is basically forced out by that mere action because they don't want Hyper to fall, and that is going to be enough to keep them alive and keep them in this fight to stop that full capture. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I've seen it, I'd have a handful of nickels, but this is going to be a tough fight back for Dragon's Vanguard.
Tough is one way of describing it, absolutely. We've had to swap our backline off of whatever unreasonable nonsense they were on for the recontest. So we're basically, on no ults. Downpour will be nice, but best case scenario here, realistically, is going to be forcing Jazzy's beat. You kind of need the DPS to perform a lot higher than they've been performing all map long. In the series, they've been fantastic. Here on Runasapi, dead silent.
There's a slash coming in, looking for Juno, just missed it there, and now in kind of no man's land. Meanwhile, the rest of the point, it's still getting pushed. Juno is definitely the target of this hazard, is very well aware of it. My god, the low health just about followed up on, but meantime, Hattori and Dactus have found Yuji. Jazzy's going to take Hyper out, and it just took too long for Dragon's Vanguard to find the target, and by the time that they did, they had lost the fight.
Hyperjono's playing Hazard like he plays Doomfist in the backline. Just fine on the Doom, but the Hazard is kind of supposed to be more of an anchor for your team. Unfortunately, not being that means that Hattori just hard walks, and the Dragon's Vanguard cut right back to their doorstep. All their hard work now undone.
Big carnage right into Yuji, followed up there, another rampage. We call that a movement rampage to get in position because it didn't hit anyone. But what it will do is make sure that they secure that complete capture of the map. And what a different outlook it is when these teams can't play Doomfist. This was very much Dragon's Vanguard being put to test. Like, okay, show us how flexible you are. And the answer is not very. Not very flexible at all. They really struggled on the Winston composition. It's very clear that Hyper isn't as comfortable in Hazard either. Meanwhile, Hattori was definitely comfortable with that Junker Queen to the point where I wouldn't be shocked to see a Junker Queen ban by Dragon's Vanguard in the next map.
I think a Queen ban would be pretty so optimal, to be honest. I think we just shot ourselves in the foot incredibly heavily by banning the Kiriko. Like I said, you have to stick to your game plan if you do that. Because, for example, you've got no cleanse, even remotely possible, for the Rampage. So you just lose every Rampage fight, especially because Azu gets their beat desync so early on. Feel like it was a huge mistake of a ban, to be entirely honest. And Dragon's Vanguard as well. They probably could have stuck on the Tracer Power. They probably should have stuck on the Tracer Power, but electing not to. I mean, they found very little of it, so a bit of a step up from them.
Well, it is that time, folks. Ring the bell. It is a map 5 that we will be going to. These teams are not letting it slip. They are going tooth and nail, and yes, folks, it is a slobber knocker of a fight between these teams. But alas, every fight has its conclusion, because that's what's next. That conclusion will have no break. The players are at the top.
No, we run it.
Yeah, are at the top gear, and they will be flying forward here nonetheless. But now that Doomfist can be picked again, you know, what's the strategy?
Go Doom, win. You're going Escort for sure. They have that choice, so they can go towards something high verticality, ban out Hazard. Hitori will have to mirror with D.Va, and then win that, because Doom into D.Va, yeah, you can shoot him real hard, but outside of that, you don't find that much value. So that's exactly what I would see. And then in that case, the ban from Moths would be... I don't know. I actually have no idea.
Well,
okay.
2 minutes to decide, because there is going to be a break nonetheless. We're spry, we're on our feet, you never know what we're going to do next. Next is a 2-minute break, and then we'll have the conclusion of this 5-map banger. We'll be right back. It has been a back and forth battle between two teams who are struggling to force themselves forwards in the first matchup in the first round of the CGL Season 15 EU Open bracket. Because every step forward in this bracket is a step closer to etching your name in the history book of CGL. 15 seasons of grand final winners going all the way back to Season 1. I don't think I was born yet in Season 1 of CGL, and it's just amazing to be a part of it, but of course these players want to be more of a part of it. They want to win it all.
Yeah, of course, in that break we really went through our maps and bans, so we kind of know what's happening next. Let's get right into it. Firstly, Shambali Monastery. It's a weird one. It's a really weird one, but to be fair, it is what Dragon's Vanguard like to go towards as like a comfort choice. In terms of your actual like map hero design, it's kind of cooked in my opinion. Hitori will be able to play all of her ground tanks to great effect, but that's where they want to take it. So that's exactly where we're going to see things work. This ban, or this pick, sorry. Like I said, it's 100% comfort. It's what Dragon's Vanguard, I believe, was it won the mid-season on before? But we'll have to wait and see how it works out. In terms of what you're going to be banning, you just want to, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. It feels like most of the things are through. The Sig was kind of annoying, you could ban that. The Queen was kind of annoying, you could ban that. Anything like that.
Yeah, the Cass has been picked by Bro Player a lot. Yeah, there's really a lot of... you know what, there we go. That makes actually a lot of sense on Shambali, because Hitori was picking the segment. It worked really well on King's Row. So, I mean, Hitori's just going to have to rethink what tanks they want to play if Sigma was the call.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Sig's gone. You can still play the Queen. It will be playable. Orisa, very playable. Hog, playable. Kiriban makes enough sense. Analusio's strong enough here. Double flex a possibility. So we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Flux.
Am I?
Guess you're I don't know. These are all bans.
Tell me if I'm being dementia, because was Kerry not already banned? Was Kerry not literally banned the previous map? Oh, by the other... Ah, right, okay. I forgot. Sorry, I forgot the rules. My bad. Silly me. But, man, it's been a history of bans, and here's a look back through it. Of course, the Doomfist. You know what would have been crazy if Moths actually banned Doomfist themselves. That would be an insane throw for one, but also if they actually won it, like the aura they would gain from that would be incalculable.
I still think one of my favorite ban phases ever was Gas Tier 3 versus Lil Ducks in Face It. Gas Tier 3 banned Juno, lost on it so hard, and then due to that, the enemy team banned Juno as well, and they just lost a series off the back of it, which was one of the moments of all time. It's really quite generational. Listen, for the final time, we're heading in 2-2 Shambali Monastery. I mean, Dragon's Vanguard look to repeat their success from a game long since in the past, and close it out here in our first matchup of the CGL Season 15 playoffs.
On the windy mountaintops of Nepal, Shambali will be the final battleground of these teams. One of them will be sent into the losers bracket to make the hard run back. And really, given how chaotic some of these fights have been, that's a really risky run for either of these teams. They want to be up against 0907. They want to fight for their chance to get forward in the winners bracket. But the issue for Moths is that Doomfist is pickable, and Hyper is going to be causing lots of issue. Where Hitori seems like they're sticking with this idea of the Junker Queen.
Yeah, that they will. I think fair enough. The Queen win con's nice. So they're going to be literally just playing around this rampage. That means that you're going to get poked out really hard. Torb and a Brig? Ugh. Spam is not going to be kind to Hitori.
Yeah, this isn't going to be easy. This is not Runasapi. Much harder to get into place as a Junker Queen. But you see Dactus getting really low as they push forwards here. Broplayer are actually taking Yuji out. Likely to get traded out as Hyper is continuing to look for them. But stays alive nonetheless, and they force this Anna Brig all the way back around the corner, so they're getting some good movement on the card from this.
Yeah, they will. Of course, that's a really fast gap here. The pro player is so free in the angle. Hitori can just hard walk. I question the value of the Brig here. There's very little for you to actually do for something a little bit greedier, actually. Like, for example, a Juno. I think it's even better than the Brigitte. Still not my favorite pick in the world, but like, considering Kiri's gone, if Azu doesn't want to Zen, doesn't want to Bap, then I think this is still pretty valid.
And this was the backline that they ran on King's Row, which didn't quite go their way in the end. Of course, yeah, Brigitte not really going to be doing too much to swap into the Juno. Lots of aerial battles right now, but Yuji's going to be winning it out as the Pharah Bro player. Going to go down. The nemesis of Bro player is Yuji's Pharah. Hitori forced into a bad position, needs to shout early, will fall. XDD will go down also, but it's enough so far that they're able to find the pigs and get this defense under control.
Yeah, that it will. I mean, it's going to be a lot easier, honestly, around this corner for the Pharah. It's much easier to hard spam the walk up, hard spam the chokes. You're much less exposed to angles that the hit scans get to be on, basically guaranteed. So I do think that as long as Dragon's Vanguard, no one makes any huge mistakes, then they're still in a decent spot, all things considered.
Very decent indeed. Rampage ready from Hitori. Good, not been looking at again the whole team, but at least getting like Hyper with it and getting into good position with it would be enough. Hyper's gonna go forward, does charge up that punch, goes in for the Meteor Strike, and now very vulnerable themselves to the Rampage, but World Player needs to watch out that punch. Well, they just get messed up there by the elevation of the point. So, yeah, the touch just about there as the Nano has been on to Hyper, but Hyper being forced to be the cart mule at the point, so can't get the value from it as the rest of Moths just clean up and secure that first point.
The Dragon's Vanguard, they're kind of taking these brawlier fights, but they can't play for it. They have to play hard for the poke. That's their win con here. That's how their comp is going to succeed, especially when you're playing this Pharah double flex. So the fact we're letting them walk up to corner for free, letting them pass corner for free, a huge, huge mistake from Hyper John to Meteor Strike and allow the cart to get it through all the way to the point, basically.
Optical Ray coming out. Gonna land the missile right onto Yuji. Perfect access with the blade on the left. Is gonna force them all the way back. This is great energy being shown by Moths. There is a point contest by XCD just a little bit, but Jazz is going to win out that duel. It's exactly the team that we need to see if Moths are going to win this against Dragon's Vanguard.
It's going to be pretty tricky. A pulse would be lovely. A barrage on these sidelines. It's hard to find, to be honest, one where you're not so exposed to the Soj, especially with that OC. That could be becoming active at any moment. Here it's going to be Hyper Jono, HP evaporated.
Oh my god, so much damage. And face tanking his orbital ray, Pro player gets sent to the heavens with that. That's a triple on that one. Yuji has taken himself out for the third time. I mean, it's a dangerous time to play Pharah. That's gonna happen.
I think Pharah's fine in theory here. I think we're just not playing towards our conditions. Whoever's doing the calling, it's almost like they want to play a dive style, and I don't think it's working out for them. Okay, so they go on the Soj instead of the Tracer. You play more for the Poke now. I think this is a good decision. But we have to actually play for our Poke, guys.
Well, Hyper does have the ultimate, but they could have the option to go in nice and aggressive here as Hitori just gets punched into that wall, school-dished, and off the back of that, it's going to be a little bit harder for Moths to push, so they're just going to have to be on the back foot, and that's the second fight the Moths have lost, so far so good from them.
Yeah, of course. Just launching the Cheers right now is Jazzy looking for, well, something. You're in a position to get a strong hold, you've got the Nano, knife could have been brutal, but there is PL.
Oh! High-bro player, they get punched into the wall and then headshot. Hitori right to the back. That carnage is going to be enough to follow up onto XCD, and you're not going to follow up by taking down Yuji. Great knife onto Dandu, going to finish it off. Hyper is alive, looking to try and create opportunities to get eliminations, but it's just going to have to scamper back to spawn.
That at least he'll be allowed to. You've got the Nano for the next cycle, but you've given up a crucial fight here. Now, you have to be perfect for the next 2.5 minutes if you want to stop a cap on-champ battling monsters, something borderline unheard of. Yuji takes some damage early on. Same could be said of Hyper Jono, but he needs to get going and soon.
Well, there's the Nano and Nade punching into the wall. The Subaru is there to keep them alive momentarily. It's Dactus, yeah, takes down a... Oh no! That is just rough. I mean, they were losing the fight. Right? Ellipses?
Not really. They just, like, trolled all their cooldowns and... okay, I know I'm being negative. I know I'm being very negative. I know it's not fantastic. But Dragon's Vanguard are just, like, inventing new and creative ways of trolling. Like,
I will say...
We could be on, like, a hyper bat. We could be on, like, a King's Row or a Dorado, wherever the hell's in the pool. Why even on this map? They wouldn't be able to play Queen then. And instead, we're killing ourselves with Barrage. We're ulting when we're down 2 people. We're nanoing our Doom into a known nano boost and then just leaving the point. We're not shooting the Queen comp walk up on a poke comp. What the hell is happening?
Well, they played poorly enough for a CGL certified Spectre and Rant. I will agree with you. It certainly feels like the bed sheets need to be cleaned after that one because that was just... They let it slip. They just let it slip, and it seemed like by the 3rd point they just couldn't find what stuck. Yuji went into Sojourn, and XDD went to the Sojourn, Yuji back onto the Pharah. They just couldn't find the formula, and now they're in a position mentally where they're feeling the match slip away from them. They need to lock in here, and right now Hyper potentially not even playing the Doomfist, going on to the rematcher right now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't mind it. Actually, I'm not sure I do like it that much. I think the problem is you just lose so much stills to the Rampage win con. That's the main thing that's really messing up the cornflakes of the Vanguard.
To be fair, I'm not a big fan of cornflakes, so they're messed up from the get-go for me, but XCD is going to find Jazzy. Hitori, though, is just the one that's just supplying so much damage. The Junker Queen just being so good at just running down and being the Vanguard, but for the Moths.
Yeah, indeed. So easy first ult here. It seems like on these Brawlcons, Moths are much better. I don't want to rehash things, but we don't need to be playing Brawlcons, you know, other than by the choice of Dragon's Vanguard. So a bit curious they can't execute nearly as well. The Axe and Shout find very low value, but the Rail the same cannot be said.
Yeah, Bro Player's going to find Dandu, Azu down, no support, no speed. Hyper's just going to find himself in the middle there, and right now it's like the Moths have locked in. We're seeing a new gear of the Moths where it seems like maybe the longevity of this match is starting to get to Vanguard.
I can only assume so, because the team that we started off with and the team that we're playing now, I mean, feel totally different. I don't know, so quiet. Usually XCD, such a strong start, so they simply can't continue with. And almost half the time like now burns.
That Carnage right to the face.
Why are we walking into a Queen?
Oh my god, you can't let Hitori get away with this. This is genuine carnage, pun intended. Now the Rampage ready as well. 2 minutes remaining on your defense, and Hyper's just running around like a headless chicken right now, finding absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah, that they will. I mean, okay, you're playing Pros because why not? They literally have not checked a single corner in the past like 30 minutes, realistically. And you've got Ray and OC to bail you out if things get weird. Fair enough.
I mean, this one to Dandu is just disgusting, just about surviving there. Azu's on very low health. Hitori is getting caught out for it, but the Orbital Ray just about keeping himself alive long enough for Jazzy to find Azu. Pro player to be supplying so much extra damage. However, on the defense, the walk back is longer for a tank than on the attack.
That is true. So being down this woman, that does mean you have to give up a corner, kind of half the straight. So finally some progress here for Dragon's Vanguard. The Zarya, I do think, is a strong choice. Now you've got 2 bubbles to cleanse, the bleeds, the rampages. Now you can basically just out DPS, out sustain Hitori. OC though from Pro Player is still a threat.
That's overcharged, overclock, ready to deal damage, but it's Yuji who's just gonna slash forward and call them fruit because it's Fruit Ninja time for Yuji.
I mean, Yuji can take so many resources now in this comp, right? You know, double speed bubbles as well. Of course, plenty of healing from Dandu. And sometimes, always array and Graviton Surge. Easy 3-piece for him. Freaking test, a possibility for Moths, but not a good one.
Well, there's the return there. The sound barrier to give Dactus a lot of push. Dandu's going to go down to it, so is Azu. And they have returned the offer. It's a 1 HP XCD QT who finds Dactus, but they'll have to scamper off. 15 seconds remaining.
Oh, that Ray, you'd really want it back, but I understand why you kind of need to invest it. Unfortunately, the bubble stops the first kill from coming through, but Dandu just flies into the Juno. Great kill, though, onto Juno. Literally necessary. Azu, did he get the touch? I don't think he got the touch.
Oh, just
Okay,
about.
good.
By mere pixels, it must have been one
again!
Oh, they just touched it in time. They just touched it in time. Jazzy almost won it for the Moths with that boop, but they're back on the point. Hyper is getting half decent charge here, up to high charge now. That's going to be a big Graviton Surge right to the back line there. But the Rampage trying to keep them alive. Bro players just finding the eliminations. Hyper needs to stay alive, but that health pool is just throttled downwards as Bro player is just playing at a shooting gallery right now as Hattori holds down the front line. And the Moths look like the dominant team. What a flip from the start. What a flip. Because this was not the team we saw at the start. This was very much the other way about. But the longer the match went on, you have to give credit, the better the Moths looked.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really baffled why you would ever go Shambhala Monastery here. That I don't get it. The map's not good for you. If you want to play Doom, you tried to play Doom. Doom isn't good on Shambhala. It's not terrible. It's not the worst pick ever, but considering, you know, Hattori can only play ground tanks, essentially. Anything with verticality seems like such a slam dunk, right? But instead, we just decide not to and get rightly punished for that. I think series unfortunately lost in the map selection stage, for lack of a better phrase. Dragon's Vanguard, such a strong fight from them, but unfortunately not able to convert it in the end.
Yeah, I mean, this was not clean from either team. Very bloody battle. Lots of wounds on both sides, but I think by the end, the Moths just going to figure out that Junker Queen. And, you know, not to be a Timmy told you so, but I kind of feel like maybe they should have banned the Junker Queen in hindsight, because they just struggled to handle it at all. Hattori was basically in a sandbox and was forcing them to eat sand most of that map.
I don't quite understand the metaphor, I'm gonna be real with you. But fair enough.
I am deliriously tired. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth next. Probably,
Yeah,
probably
I was
slivers and like drool, if I'm being honest.
That's okay. I think we can afford to go to a short break once the highlights finish running. We'll be able to have an interview, I'm sure, with one of the victorious members of Moth, and we can talk through exactly how that series felt for them, because that was one of the more exciting matches we've had at CGL, especially on stream for a hot second. So many moments back and forth that I can't wait to pick their brain about.
Yeah, and it was a lot of chaos fights where, you know, it's about knowing where each other are. It's about having trust in your teammates and kind of following up. And by the end, the Moths were doing that. And I think their greatest victory has to be on King's Row, because they had to fight against a lot to win out on King's Row. I would say that's the most impressed I was from them. And then, you know, we don't need to really talk about Servassa. That was kind of like
map 4 and 5 was just like they were lost like before the game started, in my opinion. I don't know why we banned Kiriko, and I don't know why we went Shambhala. I don't know. I don't get it. I would love for somebody smarter than me to, you know, DM me if you know the vision, if you kind of understand what happened, because I'm really quite lost. I think up to that point it looks so good for Dragon's Vanguard, but unfortunately it's just a bit of a collapse after that.
You're gonna get like a long French DM from someone at this point.
I
And you'll need to Google Translate it to see what the vision was. But we'll get to see what the vision is behind the team of the Moths, because we'll have a Jazzy interview after a short break, and we'll see what the inner workings of the Moths are like. Don't go too far, we'll be right back after this break. A long and weary battle has come to a conclusion as the fictional creature of the dragon has been slain, but nothing but the mighty Moth. It was a back and forth slobber knocker, as I like to call them, but in the end, the Moths win it out and continue their journey on the winners bracket. The winners brackets. I'm completely fried at this point. But season 15 open division, they continue moving forward. We have Jazzy from the Moths. First of all, congratulations on the win.
Thank you, thank you.
And the first question I want to ask is, we kind of saw a lot of struggles at the beginning of the match, but it kind of felt like the more the match went on, the warmer you guys looked. Is that kind of how it felt in the moment? And is that kind of how your team usually is in terms of gameplay?
This is definitely out of the ordinary. We didn't warm up. Well, we don't usually warm up for matches, but we didn't warm up for this. And it really showed. It isn't usually as much, but I think it was a lot of just not expecting the Doom, and a lot of like because we have a lot of like lower tier players and higher tier players. It's just a bit of a disconnect, but no, this is not the usual at all.
I mean, for my first question, I mean, it came pretty close multiple times. My first question is going to be, when you went for the early recontest in overtime to win King's Row, what was the decision-making process there? Because, you know, I was saying at the moment, you guys were probably just going to let them get through Arch, you know, farm up ults, and then just try and blow them up then.
Bro player just called, I want a high noon now. I want I want a high noon. I want a recontest with high noon. Juna said no. Hattori said yes. So then we just fucking went for it, and it worked out.
Fair, absolutely enough. And then secondly, like, I gotta know, like we were saying beforehand, I've got no idea why we saw the Kiri ban and then the Shambali pick, you know, coming through. Did you guys feel it was as bad for you as maybe I thought it was, or is there some vision for them? Sorry, that's maybe I'm not understanding.
I mean, the Kiri ban just wasn't an issue. Like that's just like they just didn't ban anything that we had an issue with. We don't really like playing the Kiri as much, but we can play if we want. So it's not really a comfort pick. So they're not banning our comfort pick. It's just it is what it is. We were able to play our comp and we were fine with it.
Nice. And the next match then is confirmed. It's against 0907. A team I'm pretty sure you guys haven't faced off against, at least in CGL, as far as I know. You didn't face in the mid-season, and they're in a different group. Are you aware of 0907? They won the mid-season, so they're, I guess, in that regard, the odds-on favourite to win the playoffs. How confident are you guys feeling facing a team like 0907 who are, I think, undefeated in CGL? Yes, they are. They're undefeated in CGL.
I mean, we know who they are. We know about their Masters run. We know about them playing in CGL. We knew we wanted to play them. We wanted to play them first, realistically, but I mean, it didn't happen. It is what it is. But we're confident. Like, I think it might be like a map 5 or whatever, but I think we'll beat them. I'm confident of that. As long as we play our game, we play right, and we don't lose to ourselves, I'm really confident we'll beat them.
Oh yeah, I love that confidence. I can hear in the voice as well. That's determination, I hear. Last question then. Any shout-outs you'd like to make on stream?
Yeah, Juno and Chibali feeding last fight when we said they could touch.
Wow, that is the absolute call out there. But thank you for joining us, Jazzy. It's been wonderful watching the team play, and I'm excited to see what you guys cook up against 0907. And I do agree, I think it has the feeling of going the distance there. I'm sure 0907 will be ready and waiting to give that a banger. But thank you for joining us, and we'll let you get back to your team to celebrate.
Of course, we'll make sure to give you a good match on stream. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
And you. Well, I know what the rest of my day is going to look like, and that's going to be hitting the hay. That was an energetic match, and I feel like I wasn't playing. I was just watching and saying things over it, but I feel like I've went to the gym and hit a couple reps of the silly, and now it's time to hit a couple reps of the EP. But what a great start to the Season 15 playoffs, right?
I mean, the best we could have asked for. You know, an absolute barn burner of a matchup. Went really close. Had more than a couple plays as well. And if the rest of this CGO playoffs run like this, we're gonna have the most entertaining one we've ever had. So fingers crossed that continues.
Absolutely, and check out the CGL socials and the announcements. Of course, it's playoff season. Anything can happen at any point. In terms of production, we basically just pick up things as we go along. So things are very last minute sometimes, like this game was in terms of the broadcast. So keep your eyes on the socials about the pings and such about when games are coming up, and definitely try and catch them all because these playoff games are insane. We're covering 82 games in the playoffs, is what I've been told by production. 82 games. This is one. So, buckle up. There's a lot of Overwatch to watch. But that is us from tonight. Don't forget to laugh loud and love yourself, folks. And thank you to our production of Hippie and Orange and Person as well. Thank you, Spec, for...
I can't lie.
I think Person was just hanging out, but thank you, Person, for being someone that exists. We all appreciate your existence. Since I've said my intro already because I'm tired and delirious, good night!